Hello everyone, and welcome to Dead Time Stories. Tonight, the storm outside isn't the only thing brewing. True tales so chilling they'll make your skin crawl, yet so mesmerizing you won't be able to turn away. But here's the twist. That distant thunder isn't just atmosphere. It's the key to unlocking your deepest sleep. So before you drift off, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, let's get comfortable, relax, and dive into tonight's story. The path wasn't really a path at all, just a suggestion of one. A faint trail pressed into the tall grass, so slight you might have missed it if the wind hadn't carried your gaze to it. Something about that line, subtle though it was, drew you forward. You didn't remember deciding to follow it, only that your feet carried you along without protest. The grass was high, brushing against your arms, its dry whisper constant. The air smelled of earth, and something faintly metallic, like the scent left after lightning strikes. The sky was heavy and pale, a dull parchment stretched overhead, the sun hidden as if it no longer mattered. You walked for what felt like minutes, then hours, then both at once. Time tangled in strange knots here, refusing to move straight. And just as you began to wonder if you were walking in circles, you saw it. The lantern. It stood in the very heart of the field, perched atop a crooked wooden post. The wood was cracked, weathered with age, leaning slightly as though tired but unbroken. The lantern itself was an old iron frame, the glass clouded and rimmed with soot. Yet the flame inside, small, steady, burned with a golden calm. It cast a circle of light against the endless gray, a defiance of both time and shadow. You slowed. Something about the glow seemed aware. The flame did not flicker though the wind brushed against your cheek. It held steady, constant, as though it had been waiting for you. The air thickened, hushed. The insects fell silent. Even the grass bent without a sound. You felt your breath soften, almost stolen from your lungs, as though the world itself asked for reverence in the lantern's presence. That was when you noticed the shadows. They weren't right. They stretched farther than they should, spilling from the post in long, curling ribbons. They coiled across the ground with strange patience, winding toward your shoes. Not fast, not violent, curious, like something sniffing the air. Your throat tightened, and before you could step back, a sound broke the stillness. A bell. Distant. Hollow. Slow. One toll, then another. Each note rolled through the field like a heartbeat, and with every sound, the lantern's flame pulsed. Once, twice, in rhythm with the unseen bell. And then, faintly, you heard a voice. "Don't step outside the light." You froze, the voice threading through the stillness like smoke. It wasn't loud, nor harsh, but low and steady, close enough to feel it vibrate in your bones. You turned, scanning the horizon. There was no one. Only the endless expanse of grass bending under the same slow wind. "Who's there?" you asked, though your words felt swallowed by the field. No answer came. Only the wind sighing, the faint toll of the distant bell, and the pulse of the lantern's flame. You stared at the glass pane, and for a moment you thought you saw a reflection. A face, dim and blurred, staring back at you. You stepped closer. "Don't," the voice said again. Firmer this time, as if warning a child not to touch a hot stove. "Not beyond the circle." The shadows shifted. The ribbons that had curled lazily around your shoes drew back slightly, as though respecting the voice's command. You lifted one foot experimentally, half intending to step closer to the edge of light. Immediately, the air pressed heavier against your chest. The flame flickered once, sharp and anxious, and you thought better of it. The lantern's glow cast a circle, no more than 10 paces wide. Beyond it, the gray field stretched endlessly, its grass bending and swaying, though you swore it never moved quite the same way twice. Shapes hinted at themselves in the distance. You blinked, and they were gone. Swallowing hard, you spoke again. "Why shouldn't I?" This time, the voice answered without hesitation. "Because the dark remembers. And it doesn't forgive." You turned, expecting someone to be standing within the circle of light with you. But there was no one. Only the lantern, the crooked post, and the restless shadows curling outward. The bell tolled again. and this time, you were certain the sound was closer. The third toll of the bell seemed heavier, as though the air itself thickened around it. You pressed a hand to your chest, steadying your breath, though your heart beat faster than you liked. The lantern's flame pulsed again in rhythm, brightening, then dimming, never wavering. You whispered, almost afraid of your own voice. "Where are you?" For a long moment, silence. Then, "Here." The word came from everywhere and nowhere. It seemed woven into the light itself, carried by the flicker of the flame. You stepped closer to the lantern, peering into its sooty glass. The reflection returned, faint but undeniable now, a face, pale and indistinct, as though seen through rippling water. Eyes, dark and endless, held yours with quiet gravity. Your mouth went dry. "Who are you?" A pause. Then, "The one who keeps the light burning." The field whispered around you. The grass swayed, restless, though the wind had stilled. Beyond the circle of light, shadows twitched, moving not with the rhythm of nature, but as if stirred by unseen figures. Shapes leaned and shifted in the distance, silhouettes too tall, too narrow, their movements jagged, wrong. You gripped the lantern post for grounding, the wood rough and splintered under your fingers. "They're waiting," the voice murmured. "They always wait." You strained to listen, and faintly, just faintly, you thought you heard breathing from the dark. Long, uneven breaths, rising and falling in unison with the grass. "They'll call to you," the voice said. "They'll wear familiar sounds. Do not answer. Do not follow." Your skin prickled cold. As if in mockery, the dark answered at once. From the endless field came a sound, a laugh. Not cruel, not monstrous. Familiar. A laugh you knew from years ago, belonging to someone you had lost. Your throat tightened. You wanted to call out, to believe. But the flame leapt suddenly, sharp as a warning, and the voice hissed. "Stay inside the light." The laugh echoed longer than it should have, tangled in the bending grass until it faded into the hum of silence. You clutched the post tighter, splinters pricking your palm, reminding you that the lantern was real, that something here, at least, was solid. But your chest ached. That laugh had belonged to your brother. You hadn't heard it in years, not since. "Don't," the voice in the flame whispered, cutting across your thoughts. It was firmer this time, almost urgent. "They know your grief. They'll shape themselves from it." You closed your eyes. When you opened them again, the field seemed closer, pressing in around the circle of light. The gray horizon leaned forward, and the grass at the edge of the glow rustled as though something moved within it. A shape stepped into view. At first, it was just a shadow, long and bent, stretched by the flame. But as it neared the boundary of the circle, it gained weight. Shoulders, arms, the suggestion of a head tilting toward you. You tried to make sense of its outline, but the figure refused to settle. One moment it was tall, the next hunched, shifting like smoke caught in glass. Then it spoke. "Please," it said in your brother's voice. A whisper at first, then stronger. "It's me. Don't you recognize me?" Your knees weakened. Your mouth opened before you could stop yourself, your voice cracking. "No. You're not him." The figure stilled. For a moment, silence. Then a long, dragging breath that seemed to shake the grass itself. The lantern's flame flared bright, filling the circle with warm gold, as though it was pushing back the edges of the shadow. The figure recoiled, retreating just enough that its outline blurred again, folding back into the restless dark. The voice in the lantern spoke once more, steady now. "You see? They hunger for your belief. Give it to them, and they will have you." And as if to punctuate the warning, the bell tolled again. Closer. Heavier. Its sound made the lantern shiver. The bell's toll rolled across the field like thunder underwater. You felt it in your ribs, a vibration deep enough to rattle your bones. The lantern's flame flinched with each strike, as though the sound threatened to snuff it out. Your grip tightened on the post. "What is that?" you asked, your voice breaking under the weight of the silence that followed. The reflection in the glass, the pale, blurred face, blinked slowly, and when the voice came again, it carried a gravity that made your skin crawl. "The bell is not for you. It is for them. As if on cue, the grass beyond the light shifted, not with wind but with footsteps. Dozens of them, uneven, dragging. You lean forward despite yourself, squinting past the golden edge of the circle. Shapes moved there. Long arms, bent spines, crooked necks that craned to look at you. They lingered just outside the reach of the lantern, their bodies folding into the gray like smoke dissipating in air. One step closer than the rest. Its face was a blur of shifting features, your brother's smile 1 second, a stranger's hollow eyes the next. It pressed against the invisible line of light, unable to pass, its mouth twitching with hunger. The bell tolled again. Louder. And the figures shuddered in unison, like puppets jerked on strings. Their heads snapped back, their jaws unhinged in a silent scream that rattled the grass. The flame guttered violently, nearly going out. You gasped. The light! It's dying! Hold it, the voice urged. It has burned 100 years, but your fear feeds their reach. Calm yourself. Do not give them more. You press your free hand against your chest, breathing hard. The bell's final strike rang through the field, longer this time, vibrating until your teeth hurt. Then silence. The figures stopped. The dark stilled. And then, from far out in the field, a new sound began. A low, rhythmic chant. Dozens of voices. Calling. Not words, not really. But they made your heart pound all the same. The chant rose from the field like a tide, low at first, then swelling until it filled your ears. It wasn't words, not exactly, but the sounds mimicked language slipping into shapes your mind tried to understand. Your name surfaced among them, buried but unmistakable, spoken with aching familiarity. You backed closer to the lantern, every instinct screaming to cover your ears. But the voice in the glass whispered sharply, "No. Do not block it. Let it pass through. If you resist, they will press harder." Your breath shook. "They're saying my name. They know what you miss, what you regret, what you crave. Do not listen." The figures at the edge of the circle stirred in rhythm with the chant, swaying forward and back, as though caught in a silent ritual. The air thickened, vibrating with their unholy harmony. Then one voice broke free from the mass, clear, sharp, and impossibly familiar. "Help me!" Your chest constricted. It was your mother's voice, raw with desperation. "Help me!" It called again, from beyond the light. The grass shivered, parting, and for the briefest moment you saw her. Her outline. Her face pale and drawn, eyes shining with tears. She reached out a trembling hand, her voice breaking. "I can't find my way. Please!" You lurched forward before you realized what you were doing. Your foot hovered just at the circle's edge. The air outside seemed thicker, darker, as if it would swallow you the instant you stepped through. The lantern's flame roared suddenly, golden fire filling the glass like a living thing. The reflection's eyes locked onto yours. "Not her," the voice snapped. "Not any of them." The shadow figure that wore your mother's face faltered, its arm twisting into something too long, its eyes collapsing into black voids. The chant deepened, furious now, as though the collective had been denied their prize. You staggered back into the circle, heart hammering. The flame steadied again, smaller but bright. The voice softened. "They will use everyone you love. They will hollow their voices until you forget the difference." Outside the circle, the shapes pressed closer, their chant bending into a single, unified cry. This time, they all spoke with your voice. It was unbearable. Your own voice, multiplied dozens of times, rose in a grotesque chorus from the field. The tone was identical. The way your words fell, the small inflections you never noticed until you heard them reflected back. It was as though every stalk of grass had grown a mouth to mimic you. "Please!" the voices begged in perfect unison. "Please let us in. Please help us. Please don't leave us here." You shook your head violently, covering your ears despite the warning. But even then, the sound seeped through, vibrating in your chest and skull. It wasn't only noise, it was resonance, something that lived in your bones. The flame in the lantern pulsed weakly. "Listen!" the voice in the glass commanded. Its tone was different now, not soothing but commanding, sharp. Listen, and you will see. Against your instinct, you lowered your hands. The chant shifted. The dozens of copies of your voice began to stagger, falling out of rhythm. Some spoke higher, some lower, each one fractured, breaking into gasps and snarls. The illusion faltered. They weren't your voice anymore. They were something else trying, failing, to wear your skin. The shadows writhed at the edge of the light, their outlines distorting like wax held over fire. Faces rippled in and out of existence, some yours, some strangers, some empty hollows with mouths too wide. A single figure stepped forward, braver than the rest. It looked exactly like you. Same stance, same face, same eyes staring back. But its smile was wrong, too sharp, stretched wide until the cheeks tore slightly at the edges. Why stay there? It asked in your voice. You're tired. You're cold. The light can't last forever. Step out, and we can carry you home. Your throat tightened. You whispered to the lantern. It looks like me. The reflection's face in the glass narrowed its eyes, fierce now. Then let it burn. The flame leapt high, bursting with golden heat. The double flinched, hissing, its smile breaking into a snarl. The grass at its feet blackened, curling to ash before the figure retreated into the mass of shadows. The chant collapsed into silence. But in that silence, you felt something worse, attention. Hundreds of eyes fixed on you, waiting for your next mistake. The lantern's voice came quieter this time, nearly tender. They've seen you now. And once seen, you cannot leave this place the same. The silence after the chant was almost worse than the noise. It pressed against you, thick and expectant, as though the entire field leaned closer, straining to hear your breath. You swallowed hard, but the sound seemed loud in your ears. The lantern's flame flickered gently, calmer now, as if it had spent itself in that last flare. The face in the glass softened, its dark eyes holding yours with a weight that was less warning now, and more confession. They will not relent, the voice said. Not until you leave the light. That is their law. You licked your dry lips, your throat rough. And you? What are you? Why are you here? The reflection tilted its head. For a long moment, it didn't answer, and you wondered if it had gone silent for good. But then, I am what stands between them and the living. The words settled heavily. Someone must hold the circle. Someone must keep the fire awake. It does not burn on its own. Your stomach tightened. Then, I'm keeping it alive? The eyes in the glass did not blink. Your presence feeds it, yes. But it is not without cost. The shadows at the edge of the light shifted, restless, as though the word cost had stirred them. Their shapes stretched upward, grotesque silhouettes rising higher than the grass, limbs thin as branches. One of them let out a faint sound, a clicking, like teeth chattering. What cost? You pressed, though your voice trembled. The reflection lowered its gaze. Memory. Your breath caught. The longer you remain, the more they take. Little by little, piece by piece. A laugh. A scent. A face you once loved. The field eats away at what makes you whole, until you forget why you ever wished to leave. The grass rustled, a sound like laughter carried on the wind. You stepped back from the post, shaking your head. No. I can't stay here. I won't. The voice in the lantern sighed, ancient and sorrowful. Then you must choose quickly, for the bell is calling again. And as if summoned by the words, the toll rang out, closer than ever. The bell tolled, and this time the sound was not distant. It was inside the field, inside the earth, inside you. The ground trembled beneath your shoes, the tall grass bowing as though in reverence. The lantern's post quivered, its flame flaring and dimming in uneven rhythm. You stumbled, catching yourself against the wooden beam. The vibration rolled through your bones, teeth rattling, chest heaving against the invisible weight of the sound. What is it? You gasped. The voice in the glass was strained, taut like a bowstring. The one who calls them. The bell is their summons. Your eyes darted to the shadows beyond the light. They writhed as though electrified, twitching and jerking with each toll. Figures bent double, their spines cracking audibly in the stillness, jaws snapping open and shut in broken unison. Their faces, dozens, hundreds, turned toward the circle, eyes gleaming like coals. The bell struck again. The ground buckled slightly, and the lantern's flame nearly went out. A sharp panic clawed at your throat. "It's failing!" you cried. "Hold it steady!" the reflection barked. "Your fear feeds them, your calm feeds me. Choose, or the flame will die." Your hands shook. You pressed your palm against the iron frame, feeling the warmth of the glass, the pulse of the fire. It felt alive, like a heart beating against your skin. "Why me?" you whispered desperately. "Why bring me here?" The reflection's eyes met yours, unblinking. "Because you heard the field when others did not. And once you hear it, it does not let you go." Another toll. The earth lurched, nearly throwing you to your knees. Outside the circle, the figures surged forward, slamming into the unseen barrier of light. Their shapes distorted wildly, limbs stretching, mouths tearing wider, bodies breaking into jagged angles that snapped back again. One pressed its face close to the boundary, skin peeling against the invisible line, eyes rolling back until only white showed. It spoke in a guttural mockery of your own voice. "Let us in! Let us in! Let us in!" The lantern's flame faltered, shuddering dangerously low. And then, for the first time, the reflection's voice wavered. "If you cannot steady it, then you must run." "Run where?" you demanded, your voice cracking. The word was swallowed almost instantly by the field, as if the gray sky itself leaned down to drink it. The reflection's eyes did not blink. "There are other lights. Scattered. Fewer now than once, but they burn. If you can reach one, you may endure. If you cannot..." The bell tolled again, drowning the end of the sentence. The vibration shook through your spine, and the flame sputtered dangerously, shrinking to the size of a candle wick. The circle of safety shrank with it, the darkness pressing closer, eager. The shadows surged forward, and you caught glimpses of their forms, men, women, children, all wrong. Their limbs bent backward, their eyes too many or none at all. Some crawled on all fours, others walked with their necks snapped to the side, mouths opening wider and wider until their jaws cracked. They pushed against the light, mouths spilling your name like prayer beads, over and over. You staggered, pulling your hand from the lantern, fighting the urge to scream. "I can't leave this circle. They'll tear me apart." "They will if you falter," the reflection said, voice sharp now, every word deliberate. "But if you stay too long, they will peel you from yourself until you beg to join them. That is the law of the field." Your legs trembled. The ground still quivered from the bell's aftershock, the lantern swaying on its crooked post. You thought of the path behind you, the faint trail pressed into the grass. It had led you here. Could it lead you out? You swallowed hard, heart hammering against your ribs. "If I run, will they follow?" "Yes." The word was blunt, merciless. "Then what chance do I have?" The reflection's eyes softened, just slightly. "Only the chance you give yourself." The bell struck again, so close you swore the air itself fractured. The shadows shrieked, pressing harder, their mouths splitting into jagged grins, their voices shredding into static. The lantern's flame guttered, smaller than ever. You had seconds. Stay, and let the light consume your memory piece by piece. Run, and take your chances in the endless field. The reflection whispered, almost gently. Choose. The air pressed down so heavily you could barely breathe. The flame inside the lantern bent low, fighting to stay alive, its glow shrinking until the shadows at the edge of the circle stretched their arms into the light. Their fingers smoked and sizzled as they reached forward, but they didn't retreat. They wanted you badly enough to burn for it. Your mind spun between two choices, stay and dissolve, or run and be hunted. Neither promised survival. The bell struck again, shaking your teeth in your skull. It was enough to break the paralysis. With a ragged cry, you tore your hand from the lantern's post and stumbled back. Your body chose for you flight. The flame pulsed violently at your retreat, as if protesting, but you didn't wait to see. You turned and sprinted into the grass, the faint path reappearing beneath your feet like an old scar. The stalks slapped your arms and face, but you barely felt them. Behind you, the field erupted. The shadows shrieked in unison, their voices shredding into high-pitched static that clawed at your spine. The ground shook as they gave chase, dozens, no, hundreds, of footsteps pounding the earth. The bell rang again, closer, almost above you now, and the sound nearly drove you to your knees. "Run!" The reflection's voice echoed faintly in your mind, though you had left the lantern far behind. "Do not stop, no matter what you hear!" The grass closed in on either side, rising taller, brushing against your shoulders, your neck, your face. The path twisted beneath your feet, and you nearly tripped, catching yourself with a desperate gasp. Something clawed at your back, fingers grazing your shirt. You lunged forward, heart hammering, legs burning, forcing yourself faster. Then, through the gray murk ahead, you saw it, another glow. Faint, trembling, but real. Another lantern. You pushed yourself harder, lungs searing, until your vision blurred. The chanting behind you grew louder, furious now, their voices braiding into a sound that was part scream, part laughter. The glow ahead wavered as if it might disappear before you reached it. You staggered, almost falling, before finally breaking through the last wall of grass. Another circle of light. Another crooked post. Another lantern burning, just barely, against the endless dark. And inside the flame, another face. Not the one you'd seen before. This one was smiling. You stumbled into the new circle of light, collapsing to your knees, lungs burning as though you had swallowed fire. The air within the glow was calmer, thicker, pressing like a barrier against the frenzy outside. The shadows shrieked in frustration as they skidded to the edge, circling like wolves that had lost their prey. The bell tolled again, but the sound was muted here, as if the lantern itself dulled its reach. You gasped in relief, clutching the splintered post, head bowed. "Safe now," a voice crooned. Your head jerked up. The flame inside this lantern flickered, and in the glass pane, a face leaned close. Not blurred like the first, clearer. Distinct. The eyes were sharp and dark, the mouth curved into a smile that seemed warm at first glance. But it was too wide, and it did not falter even as it spoke. "You did well to run," it said. Its tone was smooth, lilting, like a lullaby turned into words. "The first flame weakens. It could not have held them much longer. You were wise to leave." Your breath caught. I didn't feel wise. I felt desperate." The smile widened. "Desperation is wisdom in the field. It keeps you alive." You leaned closer despite yourself, peering into the glass. The reflection's face resembled someone you almost knew, though you couldn't place them. A neighbor? A friend long gone? The familiarity gnawed at you. "Who are you?" you asked, your voice hoarse. "I am the keeper of this flame," it said. "And now so are you." A chill crawled up your spine. "I don't understand." "You will." The shadows outside shifted, pacing the circle. Their chant had stilled, but their presence remained heavy, a constant reminder that safety was temporary. One of them dragged its hand across the invisible barrier of light, leaving a smear of black smoke that hissed before dissolving. You looked back at the lantern. The smiling face hadn't blinked once. "I'll teach you," it said sweetly. "But lessons are not without price. Do you accept?" Your throat tightened. You thought of the warning from the first lantern, about memory, about cost. You hesitated, staring at the endless smile. Outside the circle, the shadows leaned closer, patient. Inside, the flame beckoned with its promise of knowledge. And from somewhere deep in the dark, the bell began to toll again. The bell's vibration rolled faintly through the earth, enough to make the post tremble beneath your grip. The flame inside the lantern swayed, golden light flashing against the glass. The face smiled back at you, patient, as though it had all the time in the world. "You asked to understand?" it said. "So listen." You swallowed hard. "Understand what?" "Their hunger. Your part in feeding or starving it." The fire is not only a shield, it is a weapon. But it burns nothing for free. The shadows hissed at the edge of the light, their outlines twitching, as if the words themselves agitated them. One dragged its jaw along the ground, teeth raking across the dirt with a sound that made your skin crawl. "What price?" you asked, your voice nearly breaking. The smile widened. It leaned closer in the glass, eyes glinting. "A piece of you. Just a small one. A memory you do not need. Something you will never miss. Give it, and I will show you how to wield the flame." Your chest tightened. You remembered the first lantern's warning, that the cost was memory, chipped away until you were hollow. Was this how it began? The field taking a laugh here, a face there, until you no longer knew who you were? The face in the glass seemed to read your hesitation. Its smile softened, coaxing. "Think. Is there not something you would rather forget? A grief that weighs you down? A guilt that gnaws at you? Offer it. Let the flame burn brighter with it." Your throat constricted. Images pressed at the edges of your mind. Nights you wished you hadn't lived. Words you had spoken and couldn't take back. A silence between you and your brother that had stretched until it became permanent. The shadows groaned in chorus, as if they could smell your doubt. They pressed closer, their limbs dragging through the grass, their mouths opening and closing in hungry rhythm. The face in the lantern tilted its head, patient still. "Choose quickly," it whispered. "Give me something to burn." The flame flickered, awaiting your offering. You stared into the flame, the heat brushing your face as though it leaned closer to breathe against your skin. The reflection's smile didn't falter. The longer you looked, the more you realized how fixed it was, like paint that couldn't peel, like a mask nailed to the bone. "A piece of you," it urged again, softer now, coaxing. "You've carried grief too long. Let it burn here, and you'll be lighter." The words were tempting. Your brother's laugh echoed at the back of your mind, twisted by the dark, replaying itself as if the field had pressed it permanently into your memory. Wouldn't it be easier not to hear it anymore? Wouldn't it be a relief to forget? But the warning from the first lantern's voice clung to you. The longer you remain, the more they take. A laugh. A scent. A face you once loved. You swallowed, chest tight. "If I give you something, I don't get it back, do I?" The reflection's smile sharpened just slightly, too quick to miss. "No. But what use is sorrow to you? What use is pain? Better to let it feed the fire." The flame flared at that, hungry, stretching upward as if to taste you. From beyond the circle came a chorus of whispers, your whispers. The shadows had heard. They leaned forward, shuddering, their bodies convulsing in unison. They seemed to savor the prospect, as though the very thought of you giving something up thrilled them. Your nails dug into the post. The wood bit back, rough and splintered. "I don't want to forget," you said through clenched teeth. The reflection's smile did not falter, but the eyes behind it hardened, narrowing just slightly. "Then you cannot learn. And if you cannot learn, you cannot fight." The flame guttered, dimming, almost in disappointment. Behind you, the shadows surged, emboldened by the lantern's weakness. One shoved itself against the barrier of light, its body snapping into grotesque contortions, its face splitting into 3, then 4, then collapsing into a featureless void. The bell tolled again. Louder. Closer. The flame shrank further, its glow pulled thin. The reflection's smile stayed frozen, but its voice dropped to a rasp. "Refuse me, and you will feed them instead." The circle of light narrowed until the grass at your feet looked gray again, no longer gold. The air pressed tight around your chest, thick and stale, as though the field itself held its breath. The shadows at the edge quivered like hounds straining against chains. One of them stepped closer than the rest, dragging a twisted leg behind it. Its body spasmed, reshaping with each step. Your mother, your brother, yourself, strangers you half recognized, all flickering across its skin like reflections in broken glass. It stopped just at the edge of the shrinking glow, and whispered in your own voice. "Give it up. Give it to us. You don't need it." The flame wavered violently, shrinking, and you dropped to your knees before the post. panic scraping your throat raw. Please don't go out. The smiling reflection leaned closer, lips parting just slightly. Then feed me. Anything. A face. A name. A memory of warmth. Give it. Your mind raced, pulled in two directions, fear of the dark pressing in, fear of losing yourself pressing back. Images rose unbidden, your brother's laugh, yes, but also the smell of rain on the porch that summer. Your mother humming in the kitchen. The look in her eyes the day she told you don't wander too far, don't go where the fields sing. If you surrendered any of it, you knew it would vanish like breath on glass. The shadow at the edge of the circle pressed harder. Its face shifted to your brother again, this time perfect, eyes wet with tears. He reached out a trembling hand, lips forming the word please. The bell struck, and the ground buckled. You stumbled against the post, heart hammering, the flame shuddering so violently you thought it would break apart into sparks. Choose! The smiling voice snapped, no longer sweet but sharp as a knife. Feed me or feed them, there is no middle! The shadows roared, a chorus of broken voices pounding in your skull. The air thickened, suffocating. And in the glass, the smiling face split wider, the lips tearing at the corners, smile stretching far beyond human. Your breath tore ragged from your lungs as the circle thinned further, shadows dragging their bodies through the grass with scraping, bone-deep hunger. The flames sputtered low, trembling between life and death. The smiling face in the glass leaned so close you swore you could feel its heat against your skin. Its voice hissed through clenched teeth, though the grin never broke. Give me something. Your heart pounded. The memories it demanded flickered through your mind, each one sharp, precious, unbearable to lose. You clenched your fists until your nails drew blood. No, you rasped. The smile widened, tearing further at the corners. The eyes behind it darkened, the warmth gone. Then you will die with all of them in your head. The flame dimmed to a thin thread, and the shadows surged, screaming in triumph. They threw themselves against the circle, their limbs stretching, twisting, their mouths opening into caverns lined with teeth. Hands, too many hands, pressed against the invisible barrier, the hiss of their touch searing the air. You screamed back, not in fear, but defiance, and slammed both palms against the lantern's glass. The heat seared your skin, but you didn't let go. You poured everything you had into one desperate thought. You cannot take what I refuse to give. The flame flared. It roared upward, golden fire bursting from the lantern, flooding the circle with light. The shadows shrieked, their bodies igniting at the edges, burning like paper curling in a flame. They staggered back, limbs breaking, faces melting into black smoke. The smiling reflection's face twisted, no longer controlled, the grin cracking as though it couldn't hold its shape. Its eyes widened, not in warmth, not in patience, but in fury. You'll burn out, it hissed. You'll burn yourself away. But the flame held, fueled not by surrender, but by resistance. You dropped to your knees, shaking, your hands blistered from the glass. The fire blazed so bright it cast the field in stark gold for miles, exposing dozens, hundreds, of shadows writhing just beyond sight. And far in the distance, for the first time, you saw it, a tower, rising from the gray horizon. Its windows glowed faintly, like stacked lanterns reaching toward the sky. The bell tolled again, so close it rattled your bones, but this time you didn't collapse. This time you stood. The tower on the horizon pulsed faintly, each window shimmering with its own small flame. It stood impossibly tall, piercing the gray sky like a blackened spire. The sight filled you with equal parts hope and dread, hope that it might hold answers, dread that it might be nothing but another trick. The flame in the lantern still burned fiercely behind you, but you felt its power waning already. It had bought you time, not safety. The reflection's ruined smile lingered faintly in the glass, lips torn, eyes filled with fury. You couldn't bear to look at it. The shadows had retreated from the sudden blaze, but they were not gone. You saw them writhing in the grass beyond, crawling on all fours, dragging their bodies along like broken animals. Some still smoldered, smoke trailing from their limbs, but none had vanished completely. They circled again, learning, waiting. The bell tolled once more, the sound heavy enough to ripple through the grass like a wave. The shadows froze, then turned in unison toward the tower. A collective hiss slithered through the field. They didn't want you going there. You clenched your blistered hands into fists, wincing at the sting, then forced yourself upright. Your legs trembled, but you stepped to the edge of the circle. The grass bent low in the faint wind, forming a narrow line, a suggestion of a path that pointed straight to the distant spire. The reflection in the flame whispered hoarsely, the smile fractured now, the voice stretched thin. "If you go there, you will not return. Then I'll go anyway." You muttered, more to yourself than to it. The flame hissed angrily, but it didn't stop you. You stepped past the circle of safety. The air outside was thicker, colder, heavy with unseen breath. Immediately, the shadows stirred. Dozens of them slithered through the grass, snapping branches, dragging limbs. Their bodies twitched as they reformed, stronger than before. You began to run. The tower's glow blinked faintly in the distance, and the path beneath your feet guided you, narrow and fragile as a thread. Behind you, the field erupted, shadows screaming, tearing forward in a stampede of broken shapes. The bell struck again. Louder. Closer. Almost inside your skull. You gritted your teeth and ran harder. The grass lashed at your legs as you ran, tall stalks whipping across your skin like ropes trying to drag you down. The faint path flickered beneath your feet, vanishing, then reappearing only when you fixed your eyes on the distant glow of the tower. Behind you came the stampede, the sound of countless feet dragging, stomping, crashing through the earth. The shadows were faster now, no longer content to linger at the edge of the light. They screamed in voices that weren't theirs, each cry echoing with someone you knew, your brother, your mother, yourself. The cacophony clawed at your mind, threatening to split it apart. "Keep your eyes forward," a faint voice urged. Not the smiling lantern, not the first one. It was something else, threaded thinly through the noise. "If you look back, you'll never leave." Your lungs burned. Your arms pumped uselessly at your sides, desperate to keep pace with your legs. Each step felt like sinking into mud, though the ground beneath you looked firm. The bell tolled. The vibration cracked the air, and the path shuddered. Ahead of you, the earth split. A jagged tear opened across the trail, swallowing grass and dirt into a yawning black void. You skidded to a halt, nearly toppling forward. The shadows shrieked with delight, gaining ground, their forms contorting as they rushed toward you. The chasm widened, stretching several feet across. Beyond it, the path reappeared, glowing faintly with the reflection of the tower's distant light. You staggered back a step. "I can't make that jump." The ground shook again as another toll ripped through the sky. The chasm grew wider. The shadows were nearly on you now, their hands reaching, their mouths gaping open with hunger. Your body moved before your mind decided. With a hoarse cry, you sprinted forward and leapt. For a heartbeat, the world vanished. No ground. No sky. Only the cold weight of the void beneath you, pulling. Then your feet struck earth. You tumbled, crashing onto the far side of the path. Pain shot up your arms as you caught yourself, dirt filling your mouth. But you were across. Behind you, the shadows howled, their stampede halted at the edge of the chasm. They writhed and shrieked, unable, or unwilling, to cross. The bell tolled again, and the chasm began to close. You scrambled up, heart hammering, and kept running. The tower was closer now. Close enough that you could see the faint outlines of windows. And in one of them, high above, you thought you saw someone watching. Your legs screamed with every stride, but the sight of the tower pulled you onward. It rose impossibly tall now, a spire of black stone ribbed with iron, each level marked by narrow windows glowing faintly with light. Unlike the lanterns in the field, this glow was steady, unmoving, like eyes that never blinked. And in one of those windows, high above, you saw the figure again. A silhouette against the gold, unmoving, its head tilted slightly to the side as though curious. The shadows behind you shrieked, still raging at the chasm that had cut them off. Their voices blended into something like a storm, carried on the wind even as the distance grew. But none followed. For now you were alone. You slowed, chest heaving, sweat stinging your blistered palms. The path curved upward now, rising toward the tower. The grass along the edges was shorter here, trimmed unnaturally, as though someone, or something, maintained it. The bell tolled again, but the sound was muted, as if swallowed by the tower itself. The vibrations rolled up your legs, but the earth did not split this time. The toll felt different. A summons, yes, but not for the shadows behind you. It was for you. You forced yourself forward. As you drew closer, details sharpened. The tower's stone was cracked and pitted, as though gnawed by centuries of wind, yet the iron ribs that bound it gleamed fresh, almost new. Chains ran up the sides, vanishing into higher windows. The lowest door came into view, a massive slab of wood, reinforced with iron bands set into an arch carved with symbols you didn't recognize. They writhed faintly when you looked at them too long, as though alive. Your feet slowed despite yourself. Every instinct screamed that crossing that threshold was a mistake, that whatever waited inside was worse than the field itself. But when you looked up again, the figure in the window had moved. It now stood directly in the frame, clear against the golden glow. It was tall. Too tall. Its shoulders narrow, its head tilted at the same strange angle as before. You couldn't see its face, only the sharp outline of its frame. And then, it raised a hand. Slowly. Deliberately. It was beckoning you inside. The air around the tower was different, denser, as though every breath you took was filtered through old stone and rusted iron. The faint hum of the field behind you fell silent here. No whispers, no laughter, no voices calling your name. Only the deep toll of the bell, vibrating faintly through the walls of the spire. You stopped at the foot of the massive door. Up close, the symbols carved into its surface writhed more clearly, not in your vision but in your mind, reshaping themselves into half-familiar words you couldn't quite understand. Some looked like faces, contorted in mid-scream, others like flames trapped in circles. Your stomach turned. You pressed a trembling hand against the wood. It was warm, as if something inside breathed against it. Then, from high above, a voice drifted down. It was low, resonant, neither male nor female, yet carrying the weight of both. Each syllable vibrated the air, threading through your bones. You ran well. Your head snapped upward. The figure still stood in the window, but the glow behind it shifted, pulsing faintly in rhythm with its words. Few reached my door. Few are still with memory intact. The words struck a raw place inside you. The lanterns. Their warnings. The cost of staying in the light. Was this what they meant? That those who survived lost themselves piece by piece until they had nothing left? Your throat worked as you tried to form a reply. What are you? The figure's head tilted further, bird-like. I am the bell that calls them. Your blood went cold. The ground beneath your feet thrummed faintly, as though to confirm the truth of its words. The toll you had heard all along, the sound that had driven the shadows, that had split the earth, it was not an object, but a will. Your knees weakened, and you gripped the iron band of the door to keep from collapsing. If you are the bell, you whispered, then why lead me here? The figure raised its hand again, the same slow, deliberate motion as before. To offer you a place in the tower. To decide whether you will burn with them, or burn for me. The door shuddered beneath your hand. Slowly, painfully, it began to creak open. A breath of warm, stale air spilled out from the darkness within, carrying with it a faint sound. Not a bell. Not a chant. A heartbeat. The heartbeat throbbed from within the tower, steady and slow, filling the silence left behind by the absent wind. Each pulse rippled through the stone like a drum struck deep underground. It rattled the iron doorframe, vibrating against your bones. You hesitated on the threshold, the grass field stretching endlessly behind you. Out there was terror, yes, but also space, air, a sky. Here, only shadow and stone. Yet the figure in the window had beckoned, and the heartbeat seemed to tug you forward, each throb a pull on the thread of your chest. The door yawned wider, the hinges groaning as though unused for centuries. The stale air rolled out stronger now, carrying the scent of damp stone, rust, and something faintly metallic, blood, or iron, or both. You stepped inside. The light from the doorway followed you a few paces, then faltered. The interior swallowed it whole. The world became narrow, your vision bound to the faint shimmer of torches lining the spiral staircase that rose into the heights of the tower. The flames didn't flicker. They burned straight, rigid, as though imprisoned in their sconces. The heartbeat was louder here. Each thud echoed up the spiral, bouncing against the stone until it seemed to come from every direction. You tilted your head back, craning to see the top, but the stairs spiraled so high they vanished into black. The door behind you slammed shut. You spun, slamming your blistered palms against the wood, but the iron bands held firm. The symbols carved into it pulsed faintly, like veins carrying light, mocking your effort. The voice descended from above again, resonant, filling the spiral. You entered. You chose. You swallowed hard, chest tight. Chose what? To climb. Your stomach dropped. The torches along the stairs flared brighter, one by one, until the path upward glowed faintly gold. And from above, faint but certain, you heard something moving, slow steps, heavy and deliberate, descending toward you. The first step onto the spiral stair echoed louder than you expected, as though the stone itself carried your weight into every corner of the tower. The heartbeat above pulsed in rhythm with your movement, quickening slightly, urging you upward. But then came the answering sound, a footstep, heavier than yours, dragging slightly, descending. You froze, fingers curling tight around the cold iron of the railing. The torchlight flickered faintly now, though there was no draft, casting warped shadows that climbed the wall. Keep moving, the voice from above commanded, not cruel but absolute. The stairs test resolve. Stop too long, and you will not continue. Your throat tightened. You forced yourself up the next step, then another. The heartbeat grew louder, closer, vibrating in your chest like a drumbeat meant only for you. The descending figure emerged slowly into view, turning with the curve of the stair. At first only its hand, long, too long, sliding along the rail opposite yours. Its nails scraped metal, leaving sparks. Then its arm, pale and stretched taut over the bone. Finally its head, bent at that strange angle you had seen from the window, eyes black as unlit glass. It stopped several steps above, tilting its head further, as though studying you. Its mouth did not move, but its voice pressed against the inside of your skull. Going up? Your grip tightened, the blistered skin of your palm stinging against the railing. If that's the only way. The figure leaned forward, impossibly flexible, its head dangling nearly upside down, face hanging inches from yours though its feet still clung to the higher step. Its grin split its cheeks wider, black veins spidering across the skin. Then you must pass me. The heartbeat thundered, nearly deafening now, rattling your teeth. The torches flared in violent rhythm, shadows writhing like chains against the walls. The figure leaned even closer, its grin stretching until its lips tore at the corners, and whispered in a voice that was almost yours. But I don't think you'll make it. The stairwell narrowed as though the tower itself conspired to trap you. The figure blocked the curve ahead, its body twisting unnaturally, joints bending backward until its limbs sprawled across the width of the staircase. There was no way forward without facing it. The heartbeat thundered against your ribs, so loud you couldn't tell if it was yours or the tower's. You clutched the railing, the iron biting into your blistered palms. If you're the bell, you rasped. Why stop me? Didn't you call me here? The grin widened, veins cracking across its cheeks. Called, yes. Welcomed, yes. But not all who climb are chosen. Some are broken here. On these stairs. Its voice scraped inside your skull, words digging like claws. You staggered back a step, nearly losing your footing. The torches along the wall sputtered as though mocking your weakness. The figure moved lower, each step a grotesque crawl. Its arms bent at impossible angles, dragging its body down, nails shrieking against the rail. It stopped just above you, head dangling upside down, black eyes staring into yours. Give me something, it whispered. A fear. A regret. A secret you've never spoken. Give it, and I'll let you pass. Your chest tightened. This was the same demand as the lantern's, payment in pieces of yourself. "No," you said, though your voice cracked. The grin warped into a snarl. The figure lunged, its hand darting forward, claws grasping for your face. You ducked, stumbling onto the next step, your shoulder slamming into the wall. The impact jarred your arm, but adrenaline kept you upright. The figure hissed, its nails gouging stone where your head had been. Sparks rained down, clattering against the steps. It reared back, body twisting until it hung upside down completely, clinging to the railing with its legs like a grotesque insect. "You can't climb without giving," it hissed. "If you don't surrender, the tower will take it anyway." The heartbeat pounded harder, shaking the walls, the steps vibrating under your feet. The figure's grin returned, wide and knowing, as it slithered lower, closer, crowding you against the curve of the stair. And then, from somewhere far above, another voice cut through the thunder of your chest. "Keep climbing." Not the bell. Not the figure. Someone else. The command, "keep climbing," split through the haze of dread, sharp as a blade. It wasn't the bell's heavy resonance. It wasn't the sly coaxing of the lanterns. This voice was firm, steady, human. Your foot lifted before you had time to think. One step upward. Then another. The heartbeat thundered, the torches flared, and the figure shrieked in rage. It lunged again, clawing at the air, but you ducked low and scrambled past its outstretched arm. The railing tore another blister open on your palm, but you didn't stop. You pulled yourself higher, forcing your legs to keep moving despite the fire in your muscles. The figure slithered after you, its body unfolding like rope down the curve of the stair. Its nails scraped sparks from the railing, its head twisting full around, black eyes locking onto yours. "You can't leave me," it howled, voice shredding into static. "The tower takes what it wants." Your breath came in ragged gasps, each one louder in the echoing stairwell. The heartbeat grew frantic, as if matching your pace. Thud. 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 Every strike rattled the steps beneath you, threatening to shake you loose. "Don't stop," the voice above urged again. Louder now. Urgent. You glanced upward. For the first time, you saw movement beyond the bend of the stair, a glow, faint but steady, not torchlight but something warmer. A lantern? A hand holding fire? You couldn't be sure. The figure below shrieked again. The sound cracked the air, sending torches sputtering. Shadows writhed across the wall, stretching toward you with grasping fingers. You forced yourself to climb faster. Your legs ached, your chest burned, but the thought of being dragged backward into those hands fueled you. Then the figure changed. It stopped climbing with limbs. Instead, its body melted down the steps like liquid shadow, pouring itself upward in a surge. Its grin split wider, swallowing half its face, and its voice pressed directly into your skull. "Give me a piece of you, and I'll let you reach the top." The new voice cut across it, sharp and commanding. "Don't bargain. Don't answer. Just climb." The spiral tightened as you climbed, each step steeper than the last. Your breath scraped your throat raw, lungs begging for air, but the voice above carried you forward, steady, firm, insistent. "Upward. Don't stop. Don't speak." The thing below no longer climbed, it surged. Its shadow flesh smeared across the stone, flowing up the curve of the stair like a black tide. Faces bloomed and withered in its surface, your own, your brother's, strangers you couldn't name. All grinning, all whispering, "Give, give, give." You stumbled, nearly falling, but caught yourself on the railing. The iron scorched your blistered hands, and you smelled your own skin burning. Still, you pulled higher. A faint glow grew clearer above, a lantern, yes, but carried by someone. A silhouette moved with it, descending toward you. Unlike the stretched thing below, this figure was upright, human, steady. Each step they took lit the stair around them, pushing back the suffocating dark. The heartbeat pounded harder, sinking with your desperate pace. Thud. 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 The sound vibrated through your ribs until you couldn't tell if it was the tower's or your own. Closer. The dark tide hissed behind you, its voice peeling through your thoughts. Let me take what you hide, and you'll breathe easier. One secret, and you'll run without pain. The urge to answer burned your throat. Words crowded behind your teeth, confessions you'd buried for years, things you had never spoken aloud. You bit down hard, blood flooding your mouth, keeping them trapped. Don't! The voice above thundered. It's not you they want. It's your silence breaking. The glow swelled. At last, through the curve of the stair, you saw the one carrying it. A woman. Hooded, her face shadowed, though her stride was purposeful. In her hand she held a lantern, but unlike the ones in the field, its flame was white, sharp, almost silver. She lifted it high, and the shadow tied below recoiled, screeching, its surface boiling like water poured onto coals. Keep climbing, she said, not as command this time, but as promise. I'll hold it back. The woman's lantern flared white, casting jagged light that filled the stairwell like a blade cutting through fog. The tide of shadow shrieked in agony, clawing at the walls, its faces splitting and melting as the glow seared across them. It recoiled downward, boiling against the stone before slithering back into the darkness below. Your chest heaved, your blistered hands still clutching the railing, but you felt the air ease. The heartbeat, though still thundering, no longer rattled your bones with every step. The woman lowered the lantern slightly, though its light remained steady, unlike the trembling flames of the field. Her hood concealed most of her features, but you caught the shape of a jaw, the glint of eyes watching you closely. You shouldn't have entered the tower alone, she said, voice firm but not unkind. It calls the ones who wander, but not all who answer can climb. You swallowed, your throat raw. Then why did it call me? Her gaze held yours for a long moment before she turned, beginning to climb upward again, beckoning you to follow. That, she said, is what you'll learn if you reach the top. You forced your legs to move, stumbling after her. The torches on the walls hissed as her lantern passed, each flame bowing toward her light, as if bending in respect. Your voice came out hoarse, desperate. The bell, it said it was the call. That it chose who climbed. It did. She glanced back over her shoulder. But it lies as much as it speaks truth. The tower doesn't want climbers. It wants keepers. The word chilled you. It reminded you of the first lantern, of the face in its flames saying, I am the one who keeps the light burning. Keepers of what? You asked, though part of you dreaded the answer. Her silver lantern pulsed once, sharp and bright. Of memory. Of fire. Of the thin line that holds the dark at bay. You stumbled, gripping the rail. But the lanterns, they asked for pieces of me. They wanted me to burn myself away. She paused, turning to face you fully. The light illuminated her features at last, sharp cheekbones, eyes pale and piercing, lips pressed into a thin line. They always ask. Because the field teaches hunger before it teaches anything else. Her voice softened, just slightly. You don't have to give it. Not if you learn to hold the flame differently. Below, the shadows screamed again, angry, hungry, their tide crashing against the stairwell's lower walls. The woman lifted her lantern higher, silver fire blazing, and the sound receded like waves pulled back from shore. Keep climbing, she said. I'll show you how. The spiral narrowed as you followed her upward, every step heavier than the last. The heartbeat still thrummed through the walls, slower now, but deep, like the pulse of something vast and buried beneath the stone. The woman's lantern swung gently as she climbed, casting sharp white beams that cut through the gloom. The torches bent toward it, their flames shrinking away, leaving only her light to guide the stair. Hold the flame differently, you repeated under your breath. What does that mean? She glanced back at you, her pale eyes gleaming in the lantern glow. You've already felt it. The field wants you to believe you must pay it in pieces. Memory, regret, fear. That's how it fattens itself. But the flame doesn't need your loss. It can burn with something else. What? Your will, she said simply. Your refusal. Your blistered palms throbbed as you gripped the railing tighter. You thought of the moment you'd slammed your hands against the lantern's glass, refusing to give it anything. The fire had surged then, Not because you surrendered, but because you denied. That was me? You whispered. She nodded once. It was always you. The words filled you with a shaky warmth, though doubt still lingered. But if that's true, why do the lanterns lie? Why do their voices demand pieces of us? Her steps slowed. She lifted the lantern higher, illuminating a carved alcove in the wall, a recess where another lantern once stood. Only shards of glass remained, blackened, as though the flame inside had consumed itself. Not all keepers resist, she said quietly. Some bargain. Some believe. And when they give too much, they become nothing but another mouth in the field. The thought made your stomach twist. You pictured the shadow things outside, their faces wearing fragments of people you loved. Were they once keepers too? The woman pressed onward. You hurried after her, your legs trembling with exhaustion. The tower tests those who climb, she continued. It forces you to face what you carry. The field screams to break your silence. The stair whispers to steal your secrets. But the higher you climb, the more you learn to hold the fire on your own terms. Her silver lantern pulsed brighter, as though agreeing. Every keeper who lasts, she said, reaches the top. You swallowed hard. And what's at the top? For the first time, her expression faltered. Her pale eyes dropped. Her voice grew low. The bell itself. The word bell echoed in your chest, heavier than any toll you had heard outside. You slowed without meaning to, your feet dragging against the steps. The woman kept climbing, her lantern casting silver arcs that carved the dark ahead, but her voice carried down to you, unbroken. The tower rises to one purpose, she said. Every stair, every flame, every keeper. It all ends at the bell. Your throat tightened. Why? What happens if I reach it? She paused, resting one pale hand on the railing. The flame in her lantern dimmed slightly, as though it too hesitated. If you climb all the way, you face it. If you endure, you may take its place. The words dropped like stones in your stomach. Take its place? Her hood shifted as she turned, her face shadowed again. The bell is not a thing you hear. It is a will. It needs someone to strike it. Someone to call the dark. Someone to keep the field alive. You recoiled, gripping the railing until pain screamed through your blistered hands. So every keeper ends as the bell? She tilted her head, eyes unreadable. Not every keeper. Only the one who climbs furthest. Only the one who refuses to break. The tower bends to strength, and strength is chained here forever. The heartbeat through the walls grew faster, harder, as though agreeing. The very stones seemed eager at the thought. Your knees weakened. And if I don't climb? She lowered her lantern, the silver flame steady but sad. Then the shadows take you, and you become their echo. They hunger for voices, for pieces, for anything left unguarded. That is their law. You swayed, torn between dread and fury. So those things out there, the ones wearing my brother's laugh, were keepers once, she finished softly. The truth hollowed you. You leaned hard against the railing, while rising in your throat. The woman lifted her lantern high again, its silver glow burning against the gloom. You've seen what waits below. You've seen what bargains cost. So decide, before the stairs demanded of you, will you climb? The heartbeat thundered in response, as if the tower itself leaned closer, waiting for your answer. The heartbeat pressed harder into the stone. Each thud shook the steps beneath your feet until dust sifted from the walls. You clutched the railing to steady yourself, but even the iron pulsed, alive with the same rhythm. The woman stood a few paces higher, her lantern raised, silver light painting the curve of the stair. She was watching you, not impatient, not cruel, but waiting. Testing. You tried to form words, but your tongue felt thick, your thoughts tangled. Climb to the bell, and become it. Stop climbing, and be dragged down into the dark to join the things outside. Both paths sounded like chains. The tower seemed to sense your hesitation. The step beneath you cracked, stones splintering like old bone. You staggered back, nearly losing your footing, as the fracture spread across the spiral. Don't linger, the woman warned. The stairs break those who stand still. Your voice caught. You didn't know what you were about to say, only that your chest burned with refusal, with fear, with the bitter taste of being cornered. The heartbeat slammed again, harder. The crack beneath your foot split wider, stone crumbling away into a black void that yawned between steps. You jerked your leg free just before the stair collapsed, falling into the endless dark below. The shadows screamed from somewhere deep beneath, voices rising up the hollow shaft. They sounded hungry, expectant. The woman extended a hand toward you, lantern swinging from her other grip. Climb, or you will be theirs. You stared at her hand, then at the gap yawning below where the step had been. The choice wasn't real, not yet, but the tower was forcing you closer to it with every beat. Why me? You shouted over the thunder of the walls. Why call me? I'm nothing. I can't. You heard, she interrupted sharply. Her eyes gleamed silver in the lantern light. And once you hear the field, you cannot turn away. That is enough. Another heartbeat slammed. Another step cracked behind you, stones splitting away into nothing. The stair was collapsing downward, cutting off retreat. Your pulse raced, panic clawing at your ribs. You had no choice left. You lunged forward, taking her hand. Her grip was iron. Then climb, she said. And don't look back. The moment your hand locked with hers, the stair groaned beneath you, then gave way. Stone shattered and fell into the black shaft, carrying with it the echoes of your own ragged breath. The void below swallowed every fragment in silence, no impact, no end. Up! The woman barked, pulling you forward. Her grip was unyielding, steadying you as your legs stumbled over the next step. Together you surged higher, the silver lantern's light cutting a path through the gloom. Behind you, the spiral was unraveling. Steps split like dry wood, crumbling into dust and vanishing into the void. The collapse chased you upward, each heartbeat from the tower rattling more stone loose. Thud. Crack. Thud. Collapse. Thud. Another stretch of stair fell away. The tower was tearing its own spine apart, as if punishing you for hesitation. Your muscles burned, lungs clawing for air, but the woman never slowed. She climbed with the urgency of someone who had done this before, someone who knew how quickly the tower could erase what it offered. Don't look back, she snapped, her voice slicing through your panic. You obeyed. But you felt it, the void creeping closer, pulling at your ankles, whispering with the chorus of shadows far below. They weren't angry anymore. They were gleeful. They wanted you to slip, to stop, to fall and join their choir. The spiral tilted slightly, the steps no longer even. You stumbled, nearly dropping to your knees, but the woman hauled you upright, her lantern blazing brighter. Will alone, she said, her voice taut with strain. That's what holds the flame. That's what holds you. Say it. You gasped, nearly choking. Will alone! The silver fire flared, spilling brighter than ever, flooding the stairwell. For a heartbeat, the cracks in the stone paused, as if the tower itself recoiled from your words. The collapse slowed. The woman shot you a sharp glance, approval in her pale eyes. Good. Then keep it. Hold it tight. The tower feeds on weakness, but it fears refusal. Above, the spiral finally broke open into a landing. A vast archway yawned, glowing faintly gold, different from the silver fire that guided you. The woman lifted her lantern higher, her voice calm but firm. We've reached the next tier. Once we cross, the stairs will not follow. Another heartbeat rattled the walls. The steps beneath you trembled, threatening to drop away. You didn't hesitate. You ran with her into the glow. And as your foot crossed the threshold, the stairwell collapsed completely, plunging into the void below. The landing opened into a chamber so vast it felt impossible that it lived within the tower's narrow spine. The ceiling arched high above, ribbed with iron beams that glistened faintly in the golden glow. The heartbeat was quieter here, muffled, as though the walls themselves absorbed it. Lanterns filled the room. Hundreds of them, Maybe thousands, lined the walls and clustered on tall iron stands that jutted from the floor. Some burned bright, others guttered weakly, and many were dark, their glass shattered, their frames bent like broken ribs. The glow you'd seen from below wasn't one flame, it was all of them, burning together in uneven rhythm. The air shimmered with heat, yet it was cold on your skin. You slowed, your breath catching, as your eyes traced the endless rows of light. Each lantern had a face in its glass. Some faint and blurred, others sharp and distinct, staring outward as though trapped behind invisible windows. Their mouths moved silently. Some wept. Some smiled. Some screamed without sound. Your stomach twisted. What is this place? The woman stepped beside you, her silver lantern throwing stark shadows across the golden sea of flames. Her hood had fallen back in the climb, and the light caught the pale angles of her face, severe but not cruel. This is the tier of keepers, she said. Every flame you see belonged to one who climbed before you. You tore your gaze from the lanterns, though the faces pulled at your vision like hooks. They're alive? She nodded once. In their way. Each one chose. Some gave themselves piece by piece, until the flame devoured all that was left. Others held fast but could not endure the climb. The tower keeps them here. You shuddered. The first lantern's warning, the smiling reflection's demands, the shadows in the field, they all tangled together in your mind. And if I fail, I'll end up in one of these. Her pale eyes fixed on yours. If you fail, you'll end up lower. You didn't need to ask what she meant. You could hear it, the faint hiss of shadows in the dark below, laughing, whispering, waiting. The woman started forward, weaving between the stands. The lanterns stirred as she passed, their flames twitching toward her silver light, faces pressing closer to the glass. Some looked at you instead, eyes wide, lips mouthing words you couldn't hear. One lantern's flame guttered as you passed. Its face sharpened, and your chest froze. It was your brother. His mouth moved silently, forming your name. You stopped so suddenly your knees nearly buckled. The lantern stood no higher than your chest, its iron frame blackened, its glass cracked. But the flame within was steady enough to cast the face clear and undeniable. Your brother. The same curve of his jaw, the same dark eyes that used to roll at your jokes, the same mouth now forming your name without sound. You staggered closer, hands trembling. No, it can't be. The woman's lantern light flared white, snapping across the chamber. The face in the glass twitched, then softened, pressing closer to the pane like a moth to glass. Don't, she said sharply, stepping between you and the lantern. It's not him. Your throat tightened. But it looks. They all look like someone. She cut in. Her pale eyes burned with urgency. That's how the tower binds you here. If you speak to it, if you believe it, the flame takes more of you. The lantern hissed, the flame sputtering as though in agitation. Your brother's face sharpened again, his lips shaping words you could almost hear this time, faint whispers brushing the edge of your ear. Help me. Your breath caught. The pull was unbearable. Every instinct screamed to reach out, to touch the glass, to free him somehow. The woman stepped closer, her silver lantern blazing. The face warped, the mouth stretching too wide, teeth appearing where none had been, eyes rolling back into black. The flame shrieked without sound and snapped to a thin thread of light. Keep moving, she commanded. You stumbled after her, your chest hollow, grief gnawing at your ribs. How could it know his face? His voice? Because it lives on memory, she said, not looking back. Not only yours. All of them. Every keeper who burned, every echo who fell. The field remembers, the tower refines. It wears what hurts you most. You swallowed hard, forcing your gaze from the endless rows of faces. Some you recognized now, neighbors, classmates, even strangers glimpsed once in passing. All twisted, all pleading. The heartbeat thudded again, faint but rising, and the lanterns flickered in rhythm. The woman glanced upward, her expression tightening. We don't have long. This chamber feeds on hesitation. If you linger, it will choose for you. She pressed forward, weaving between the iron stands, her lantern steady. You followed, but your eyes kept sliding back toward the glass faces, every one whispering something you almost heard. Until one voice rose above the rest, clear as if spoken directly in your ear. If you climb, you'll forget him anyway. You froze mid-step, the whisper still ringing in your ear. If you climb, you'll forget him anyway. The voice hadn't come from a single lantern. It rippled through all of them. Hundreds of mouths moved in unison, faces shifting, overlapping, merging into your brother's until the chamber seemed filled with nothing but his likeness. Each one called your name, each one shaping the same words: don't climb. Stay. Stay with me. Your knees buckled. The air thickened with smoke and heat, your lungs filling with the taste of ash. The glow of the chamber dimmed, flames sputtering, as though your hesitation fed them. The woman swung her silver lantern high. Ignore it! But the voices pressed harder, louder, every face contorting into grief, anger, desperation. Why didn't you stop me that night? Why didn't you say what you wanted to say? Why did you let me go? They weren't just your brother's voice now. They were yours, twisted and thrown back at you, each flame a mirror of guilt. You staggered to the nearest lantern, your blistered hand reaching out. The face inside pressed close, lips trembling, eyes glistening with a pain you couldn't bear. Please, it mouthed. I'm still here. Take me with you. The woman grabbed your wrist, yanking you back. Her eyes blazed pale in the silver light. That isn't him. Your chest heaved. But what if it is? Then he's already gone, she said, voice sharp as steel. The words cut deep, deeper than the smoke, deeper than the guilt gnawing your ribs. The chamber erupted with a chorus of screams, some pleading, some mocking, some laughing in cruel echoes. The flames writhed, spilling light across the stone, their faces twisting in grotesque shapes. The woman thrust her lantern higher, its silver blaze clashing against the gold. Move! If you let them root in your grief, you'll never leave this room. The ground trembled beneath your feet. Lanterns toppled from their stands, glass shattering across the floor. Each broken flame spilled black smoke that crawled like insects, wriggling toward your legs. The whispers blended into one final, thunderous voice that filled the chamber. If you keep climbing, you'll climb alone. The golden glow writhed like a living storm. Flames flared too high in their iron cages, shadows stretched thin against the walls, and the air turned thick with soot and smoke. Every breath felt like swallowing knives. The woman pulled you forward, her silver lantern blazing in defiance. Its light cut through the chaos, holding back the crawling smoke for a moment at a time. But even it flickered, strained, as though the weight of so many voices pressed against it. Don't listen! She shouted over the roar. But how could you not? The voices came from every side, pouring into your ears, threading into your skull. They knew your guilt, your secrets, every buried thought you tried to forget. They twisted them into knives and pressed them into your chest. You left me. You wished it had been me instead of you. You wanted me gone. Your vision blurred. The woman's lantern wavered in the smoke, her figure reduced to a faint silhouette. You stumbled, almost dropping to your knees, as the floor split beneath you. Shards of broken lanterns rolled into the cracks, their flames extinguishing with pitiful cries. Through the haze, dozens of faces turned toward you, your brothers, your mothers, your own. Their mouths opened in unison, and the words tore through you like claws. If you follow her, you'll forget us. If you climb, you'll climb alone. Your throat burned with the need to answer, to deny, to beg. But you remembered the stare's warning: don't bargain. Don't speak. You bit your tongue until blood filled your mouth. The woman's hand clamped onto your arm, iron strong, dragging you toward a narrow archway at the far end of the chamber. Its frame pulsed faintly, carved with the same twisting runes you'd seen on the tower's entrance. Beyond it, a faint glow beckoned, silver and steady. Now! She shouted. Before the room seals! The chamber screamed in fury. Lanterns burst one after another, golden flames exploding into shards of glass and smoke. The faces shrieked, their mouths splitting wide into voids. The floor crumbled behind you, entire rows of stands collapsing into darkness. You stumbled with her through the archway just as the chamber split apart, the roar of falling stone chasing you into the next tier. The heartbeat returned, louder now, echoing down the corridor ahead. And with it, a single, steady toll. Not from outside. From above. The arch sealed behind you with a grinding roar, stone knitting shut until the chamber of lanterns was gone as though it had never existed. The echoes of its screams faded, leaving only the steady pulse of the heartbeat and the low, deliberate toll of the bell above. Each strike shook dust from the ceiling, raining down across the corridor. Unlike before, the toll wasn't meant for the shadows. It was meant for you. The woman released your arm at last, her pale eyes scanning the corridor. Narrow, ribbed with iron beams, it stretched ahead in a long climb that bent gently upward, the heartbeat vibrating faintly through its stones. Her silver lantern dimmed slightly, as though conserving its strength. "This tier tests endurance," she said. Her voice was calm, but her jaw was set tight. "It will strip away your sense of time, your sense of distance. You'll walk until you believe there's no end. That's when most fall." You wiped soot from your mouth, your body still shaking from the chamber. "Fall how?" Her gaze flicked toward the darkness above. Into despair. Into silence. Into the waiting below. The bell tolled again. Closer. Louder. The sound pressed against your chest, rattling your ribs. You forced your legs to move, following her into the corridor. The air grew heavier with every step, the glow of her lantern pushing the dark back just far enough to keep the path visible. Minutes passed. Or hours. You couldn't tell. The heartbeat drummed on without change, endless, monotonous. The corridor twisted upward but never seemed to rise. Your feet ached. Your blistered palms throbbed. Your head sagged lower with each step, eyelids heavy. Endurance. That was the trial. To keep moving when everything in you begged to stop. The woman walked steadily ahead, her silver flame never faltering. "Speak," she said suddenly. You blinked, startled. "What?" "Anything. Keep your voice alive. If you go silent here, the corridor will take it from you. That's how it begins." You swallowed, throat dry. "What should I say?" Her eyes met yours, pale and sharp. "Tell me what you still carry. Tell me what you refuse to give them." The bell tolled again, and for the first time, the corridor whispered back, low murmurs curling along the stone, eager to hear what you would confess. The whispers slid across the stone like damp fingers, curling into your ears. They weren't words at first, just hushed tones, the susurrus of 1,000 mouths pressed close. But as the bell tolled again, they sharpened, forming sentences that sounded far too much like your own thoughts. "Say it. Speak. Give it to us." Your tongue stuck to the roof of your mouth. The woman's command still rang in your head, "Keep your voice alive." But what if speaking gave the corridor what it wanted? The woman slowed, lantern raised, her eyes never leaving yours. "If you don't speak, they will take your silence and hollow it until you can't find your own voice again. That's how most lose themselves here." The whispers thickened, pressing harder. You clutched your chest, every heartbeat rattling your ribs like a cage. The words scraped from your throat like rust. You forced more. "I carry my brother's voice. I carry the sound of his laugh, the one I couldn't stop from being taken." The whispers shifted. Some hissed, some mocked, some softened into cruel comfort. "Yes. Give it. Let it go. Burn it here." You staggered, nearly choking on your own breath. "I refuse," you gasped. "I refuse to give it up." The corridor shuddered. The heartbeat quickened for a moment, the stones vibrating under your feet. The whispers hissed in anger, recoiling into the cracks of the wall. The woman nodded once, satisfied. "Good. That's how you hold the flame. Not by feeding it, but by guarding it." Her lantern pulsed, silver fire sweeping down the corridor like a tide. The stones glowed faintly under its touch, and for the first time you noticed carvings etched into them, spirals, eyes, open mouths. Each one seemed to wince in the glow, shrinking back. The bell tolled again, louder than before. The air bent with it, pressing against your ears until they rang. This time, the whispers didn't just come from the walls. They came from ahead, echoing down the corridor like voices waiting for you. And among them, clear and sharp, you heard your own voice say, "I can't climb any higher." The sound stopped you cold. It wasn't an echo. It was a perfect imitation of your voice, clear and weary, drifting down the corridor as if you had spoken it yourself. "I can't climb any higher." The words were heavy, threaded with despair, spoken in the exact rhythm of your breath. The whispers along the stone hushed, waiting. Your chest tightened. You hadn't said it. Not aloud. But you had thought it, just moments ago, when your knees buckled and the weight of the climb threatened to break you. The corridor had stolen it. The woman didn't pause. She lifted her lantern higher, the silver flame flaring brighter, forcing the shadows on the carvings to writhe and shrink. "Keep moving," she said, "and deny it." Your throat burned. "But it's my voice." Her eyes snapped to yours, sharp as the flame itself. "So claim it back. Refuse it. Say it is not yours." The whisper stirred again, carrying the stolen words back to you, multiplied, warped. Dozens of mouths whispered it from the dark. "I can't climb any higher. I can't climb any higher. I can't climb any higher." You clenched your teeth, blood pounding in your ears. The words scraped against your resolve, dragging at your legs, making each step heavier. Your blistered hands clung to the railing as if it were the only anchor you had left. Your breath shook as you forced words through clenched teeth. "That's not me," the whispers hissed, pressing harder, curling the thought around your skull. "But it is. You thought it. You meant it. You want to stop." The bell tolled again, louder, shaking the corridor until cracks split the stone. Dust rained down, and the carvings' mouths widened, drinking the sound hungrily. You shouted this time, your voice raw, tearing through the dark. "That's not me!" The corridor shuddered. The whispers fractured, scattering like startled birds. The carved mouths slammed shut. The woman's pale eyes flicked toward you, approving, though her face remained grave. "Good. Keep denying what it steals. That's how you climb." The heartbeat quickened above, urging you onward. The corridor bent upward once more, vanishing into shadow. But even as the whispers faded, you heard one last echo, your own voice again, softer, almost gentle, slipping between the stones. "Not yet. But soon." The silence after the echo was worse than the whispers. It stretched long and hollow, a waiting silence, as if the corridor itself held its breath to see how you'd falter next. You pressed onward, each step dragging. Your blistered palms stung as they brushed the railing, the ache in your legs sharper with every rise of the stair. The woman moved steadily ahead, her lantern silver and sure, but even its glow seemed to dim against the heavy dark. Then the corridor shifted. The walls rippled like water, and the carvings melted into shapes, doorways, windows, frames that hadn't been there before. Through them you saw scenes, impossibly vivid, each one a fragment from your life. There was your brother, younger, laughing on the porch as rain battered the roof. There was your mother, bent over the kitchen counter, humming softly as she cooked. There were faces you hadn't seen in years, friends long gone, strangers from passing moments, each frozen in tiny frames of firelight. Your chest clenched. The memories weren't just shown, they were offered. Each frame glowed warm, brighter than the cold corridor, and the longer you stared the more you felt your feet drag toward them. The woman's voice cut sharp. "Don't look!" But how could you not? One vision sharpened until it pulled your gaze like a hook, your brother's face, older this time, the last night you saw him whole. He sat at the edge of the porch, cigarette glowing in the dark, his voice low as he'd said, "Don't wait up." You had waited anyway. You had wanted to say something, but the words never left your throat. And by morning he was gone. The vision reached out of its frame. Not a shadow, not a trick of the flame, his hand, whole and warm, stretching toward you. "Stay," he whispered. Not in the corridor's stolen mockery, but in his voice, soft and aching. "Just stay with me this time." Your knees weakened. You felt your arm lift, fingers trembling, desperate to touch what you'd lost. The woman's lantern flared, spilling silver fire over the vision. Your brother's face warped, mouth tearing wide into a jagged grin before the frame collapsed into black. "Don't!" she barked, seizing your shoulder. "Every step you give them takes you closer to their mouth." You gasped, dragging your hand back, chest hollow with grief. It felt real. Her pale eyes held yours. "It always does." The heartbeat thudded above, harder now, faster. The corridor wasn't finished. The corridor narrowed. The air thickened, every breath scraping your throat like smoke. The visions along the walls twisted, no longer fragments of loved ones but mirrors, dozens of them, reflecting your own face in different, broken ways. Some showed you younger, wide-eyed and uncertain. Others showed you older, hollow-eyed and weary. Some smiled too wide, some wept uncontrollably, some sat in silence with mouths sewn shut. You staggered, bow rising in your throat. Each reflection moved independently, their eyes tracking you with unnerving precision. The woman lifted her lantern, silver fire flooding the walls. The mirrors shuddered but didn't break. Instead, your reflections leaned closer, pressing their palms against the glass, lips moving in unison. "We are what you'll become." Your head shook violently. "No." The whispers thickened, curling around the words like chains. "Yes. When the tower hollows you. When you give too much or refuse too long. We are waiting at the end of your climb." One reflection stepped out of its frame. The glass rippled as it emerged, solid as flesh, but wrong, its skin waxy, its eyes black pits. It grinned with your mouth, every tooth cracked, and lunged forward. You stumbled back, nearly falling. The woman's lantern flared, silver light searing across the doppelganger's skin. It shrieked, smoke pouring from its mouth, but it didn't dissolve. It clung to the floor, dragging itself closer with hands identical to your own. The other mirrors quivered. More versions of you leaned against the glass, their fingers testing the barrier, their mouths whispering. "Step inside. We'll hold you. We'll keep you. Stop climbing." The corridor groaned with the weight of their voices. The heartbeat thundered above, every pulse vibrating the stone until dust rained from the ceiling. You pressed your back to the railing, throat raw. "Why does it want me to stop so badly?" The woman's pale eyes blazed, her voice a low growl. "Because every step you take denies it. The field thrives on endings, not endurance." The doppelganger lunged again, its grin splitting wider until the jaw cracked. You raised your blistered hands, shaking, ready to fight yourself. The double lunged, its nails tearing across the stone as it scrambled toward you on all fours. Its grin stretched too far, skin splitting at the corners of its mouth. The black void of its eyes locked onto yours, as if it could see every thought you wanted to bury. You braced against the railing, your blistered hands screaming with pain as you pushed off. At the last moment, you swung your arm in a desperate arc. Your fist connected with its jaw, the impact cracking bone, or something that only sounded like it. The thing staggered, its head snapping sideways, but the grin never faltered. It laughed with your voice, a perfect echo, mocking and cruel. The woman's silver lantern flared, spilling light across the corridor. The mirrors quivered, your other reflections clawing at the glass, their whispers rising in frenzy. "Let it in. Let it win. Stop resisting." The double lunged again. You dodged, its hand grazing your shoulder, the touch freezing cold. Pain seared into your skin, as if its fingers had sunk deeper than flesh. You cried out, stumbling, but forced yourself upright. The woman shouted over the roar of whispers. "It's not your strength it wants, it's your surrender. Deny it." You clenched your teeth, your pulse pounding in your skull. The double lunged a third time, arms outstretched, grin splitting into something inhuman. This time you didn't dodge. You caught its wrists, the blistered skin of your palms grinding against its cold flesh. It writhed, trying to force you down, its grin pressing closer, your own voice spilling from its mouth. "You can't carry him forever. You'll break." Your legs buckled under the weight. The mirrors shook violently, shards splintering as more twisted versions of you pressed against their frames. The corridor bent inward, threatening to collapse. You force the words out through your teeth, every breath searing your throat. That's not me. The woman's lantern erupted in white flame. The mirrors shattered in unison, shards exploding outward in a storm of glass and shadow. The double shrieked, its face splitting apart like broken porcelain. With one final scream, it dissolved into smoke that seared your lungs. Silence fell. The heartbeat thudded once, heavy and approving. You dropped to your knees, gasping, your hands blistered and bleeding. The woman's pale eyes softened slightly. Good. Now climb before the corridor bursts another. The corridor was a ruin. Shattered mirrors smoked along the walls, their shards twitching like insects before sinking back into the stone. The air stank of charred glass and cold ash. The whispers had gone, but the silence they left behind was worse, expectant, waiting for the tower's next move. You staggered to your feet, leaning on the railing for balance. The skin of your palms was torn raw, every movement a sting, but you forced your grip tight. If you let go, even for a moment, you feared the tower would feel it. The woman's lantern dimmed back to its steady silver glow, the wild blaze gone. Her face was unreadable as she studied you. The tower won't stop testing you. It can't. Every keeper who climbs must be broken or bound. Your voice rasped through a throat torn by shouting. And if I refuse both? She tilted her head, pale eyes steady. Then you might survive. The heartbeat above quickened, heavy and resonant. It echoed through the walls, rattling the stone. This time, you thought you felt another pulse in your chest. Not your own, not the tower's, but something tethered between the two. The corridor bent upward one last time before opening into another chamber. You braced yourself as you stepped through the arch, half expecting more flames, more faces, more tricks. But this chamber was different. It was vast and circular, lined not with lanterns or mirrors but chains. Hundreds of them hung from the ceiling, links thick as your arm, descending into the dark floor below. They swayed faintly, clinking in rhythm with the heartbeat. The woman raised her lantern, and the silver glow caught on the iron. Faces flickered across the links, faint and fast, like shadows burned into your vision. Each chain seemed to whisper in a different voice, hundreds of murmurs overlapping into a low, endless hum. Your skin prickled. What is this? Her jaw tightened. The chamber of burdens. Every chain holds what a keeper refused to give. Memories, truths, denials. The tower tries to drag them down until nothing is left but weight. As if on cue, the chains groaned, pulling lower, their links sparking against stone. The whispers rose, louder now, and among them you heard your brother's voice again, clear, familiar, aching. You could have stopped me. The words struck like a knife. The woman glanced at you, her pale eyes sharp. Do not touch them. Do not listen. If you claim a chain, it will claim you. The heartbeat thundered, shaking the chamber. The chains rattled in unison, lowering further, reaching for you. The chains swayed, their iron links shrieking as they stretched lower. The sound wasn't like metal grinding against stone. It was like voices screaming through steel. Each clink carried a word, a fragment, a plea. You flinched as one chain swung close, brushing your shoulder. The chill sank deep, colder than any winter, leaving your skin numb where it touched. Faces flickered across the links. Your brother's, your mother's, even your own, lips mouthing accusations you already knew by heart. You should have stopped me. You should have said something. You should have done more. The woman's lantern flared silver, forcing the chains to sway back, but they only gathered momentum. More dropped from the ceiling, hundreds, thousands, until the chamber groaned with their weight. You staggered to the center of the floor, your hands clamped over your ears, but the voices bypassed flesh and bone. They threaded directly into your chest, tightening around your heart like noose after noose. Don't listen, the woman barked, though her voice sounded distant beneath the roar of steel. Keep your steps light, don't let them root in you. But one chain swung closer than the rest. Its links glowed faintly red, as though forged from embers instead of iron. You recognized the voice it carried instantly. Your brother, the last night you saw him. The words he never spoke, but words you imagined he could have. Why didn't you stop me? Your knees buckled. The weight of it pressed down harder than gravity, dragging you toward the chain. The woman thrust her lantern forward, silver flames slashing against the red links. The chain recoiled with a hiss, but it didn't retreat completely. It hovered, waiting, whispering. "You must deny it," she shouted. "If you let it fasten to you, it will drag you until nothing is left." Your chest heaved, tears stinging your eyes. "But it's true. I should have stopped him." The chain shuddered as though delighted. The links stretched lower, inches from your blistered palms. The woman's eyes blazed. "Truth or not, you can't feed it. The tower fattens on guilt the way the field fattens on fear. Refuse it, or you'll never climb higher." The heartbeat pounded, rattling the floor beneath your knees. The chains screamed in unison, their countless voices weaving into one demand. "Confess. Confess. Confess." You raised your hands as the red chain hovered before you, your brother's face flickering across its links. And in that moment you had to choose, to grasp it, or to speak defiance and let it pass. The red chain hovered before you, its glow painting your blistered hands in the color of open wounds. Your brother's face flickered along its links, each shift sharper than the last, his eyes hollow, his mouth trembling, his voice threading through the chamber like smoke. "You should have stopped me. You should have pulled me back." Your hands shook, torn between reaching and refusing. The weight of guilt pressed so hard you swore your spine might snap. For a heartbeat, you considered grabbing the chain, letting it anchor you, surrendering just to quiet the ache. The woman's voice cut sharp through the roar. "It's not him. It's your memory twisted into a chain. If you take it, you'll never climb." The heartbeat thundered, rattling your ribs, demanding you decide. You clenched your teeth. Tears blurred your vision, but you forced the words out, raw and jagged. "That's not me. That's not mine to carry anymore." The chain hissed, links rattling violently. The face warped, splitting at the mouth until the grin cracked ear to ear. It lunged, wrapping around your wrist, cold as the grave. You screamed, wrenching back. The woman thrust her lantern high, silver flame blazing. It struck the chain, searing it white-hot. The links shrieked like metal in a forge before snapping apart, shattering into sparks that dissolved into the air. The chamber convulsed. Every chain groaned in unison, voices wailing as though mourning the loss. They writhed, retreating higher into the ceiling, their whispers thinning into silence. Your knees buckled, your body sagging forward, but the woman caught your arm, steadying you. Her pale eyes locked onto yours. "Good," she said firmly. "That was the tower's heaviest hand against you. It knows your grief now, but you've refused it. Remember that." Your throat was raw, but you managed to rasp. "Then why does it feel worse?" She didn't answer. She only raised her lantern again, guiding you toward the far archway as the last chains withdrew into shadow. The heartbeat pounded louder, faster, as though enraged. And above, the bell tolled once more, closer than ever. The arch ahead yawned open as the last echoes of the chains died away. The woman's silver lantern cast long blades of light across the threshold, carving the dark like a warning. The air here was thicker, each breath heavy with iron and ash. You hesitated before stepping through, your legs trembling from the fight, your wrists still cold where the red chain had coiled around you. The market left, a faint band of black, like soot burned into your skin, throbbed faintly with each heartbeat. The woman noticed. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't speak of it. She only lifted her lantern higher. "Keep climbing. Don't dwell on what's been left behind. The tower uses every hesitation." You nodded, though the weight in your chest didn't lift. Together, you stepped into the next tier. The chamber here was narrower, almost a hall, its ceiling lower and lined with jagged beams of iron that crisscrossed like ribs. The floor sloped upward, uneven stone that seemed to ripple beneath your feet. At first, it looked empty. Then the walls moved. Dozens, no, hundreds, of figures leaned against them, pressed shoulder to shoulder in suffocating rows. Their bodies were gaunt, skin clinging to bone, their faces hollow pits of shadow. They didn't stir as you entered, didn't breathe, didn't blink. You froze. "What are they?" The woman's silver flame washed over the nearest figure. It hissed, shrinking back, but did not collapse. Echoes. The remnants of those who faltered before reaching the bell. Not shadows, not keepers, just husks. They lined this hall until the end of time. Your stomach twisted. You thought of the field, the shadows, the lanterns full of trapped faces. Every step of this tower seemed littered with failure. As if sensing your thought, one of the husks turned its head. Its jaw cracked as it opened its mouth, and your voice poured out. I will not make it. The others followed, heads snapping toward you one by one, until the hall filled with the sound of your own despair, multiplied 100 times over. The woman's pale eyes flicked to yours. Keep moving. They can't touch you unless you stop. The heartbeat pounded again, shaking dust from the ceiling. The husks swayed with the rhythm, their mouths opening wider, your voice rising into a chorus. I will not make it. I will not make it. I will not make it. Your knees trembled. The hall stretched endlessly ahead, filled wall to wall with your own hollow echoes. And for the first time since you began climbing, you weren't sure if the woman's lantern would be enough. The hall pressed tighter with every step. The husks leaned from the walls, their shoulders scraping stone, their hollow sockets locked on you. Each face was a warped shadow of your own, mouths stretched too wide as they repeated the words in perfect unison. I will not make it. I will not make it. I will not make it. The sound clawed at your ribs. Each repetition felt heavier, like iron filling your lungs. You clutched your chest, gasping, and for a moment the thought wormed in. What if they were right? What if this was all you were? The woman raised her lantern higher, its silver blaze slicing a narrow corridor between the husks. They hissed at its light, shrinking back, but only enough to let you squeeze through. Their voices did not falter. She glanced at you over her shoulder. The hall is only truth if you let it be. Speak louder. Drown them out. Your throat ached, your voice barely a rasp. I can't. You can't, she snapped. Say it. You staggered, nearly collapsing as the whispers pressed closer. The husks shifted from the walls now, feet scraping the stone floor. They leaned forward, hands reaching, their voices layering until it felt like the words weren't outside you anymore. They were inside, lodged in your skull. I will not make it. The woman turned, grabbing your shoulder, forcing her pale eyes into yours. Then make them liars. The words struck deep, cutting through the haze. You clenched your blistered fists, the pain enough to ground you. The next breath tore your throat raw, but you shouted anyway. I will climb! The husks reeled, their chorus fracturing into a hiss. The nearest one stumbled back, their hollow sockets collapsing inward as though the sound had crushed them. You shouted again, louder, your voice breaking. I will climb! The silver lantern flared brighter with each word, feeding on your defiance. The husks screamed in your voice, their bodies convulsing, before retreating back against the walls, pressed flat like shadows. The hall cleared. For now. The woman lowered her lantern slightly, her jaw tense, her voice steady. Good. But remember this, every tear demands more. The bell will not accept silence, and it will not forgive weakness. The heartbeat above thundered in agreement, shaking the iron beams overhead. The husks slumped against the walls, mouths still moving, whispering faintly as you passed. But their words had changed. Climb then. Climb into the bell's mouth. The husks' whispers trailed behind you as the hall narrowed into another archway. The air on the other side was warmer, thick with the coppery tang of blood and the sourness of smoke. Each step forward felt like stepping into a furnace throat, the heartbeat pounding louder with every pace. The woman's lantern cast its silver glow ahead, and the chamber revealed itself. It was circular, its walls pulsing faintly like muscle stretched over bone. Veins of iron crisscrossed the surface, glowing dimly red, pumping in rhythm with the heartbeat. The floor was slick stone, stained black as though from centuries of ash and char. And in the center of the room lay a pit. Wide, perfectly round, rimmed with iron teeth that gleamed wet in the light. It breathed. Each exhale sent waves of hot, rancid air washing over you, Each inhale tugged faintly at your chest, as though it meant to pull the breath from your lungs. You froze, bow rising in your throat. "What is that?" The woman's eyes narrowed, her voice low. "The mouth. The tower feeds here." The pit exhaled again, and the black stains across the floor rippled. Shapes stirred within them, shadows that peeled upward into half-formed figures, bodies melted and warped, their faces stretched into screams. You stumbled back. "Shadows? Worse," she said. "These are what the tower keeps when it swallows a keeper whole. The field takes memory. The chains take weight. But the mouth." She lifted her lantern higher, its silver flame flaring against the writhing figures. "Takes everything." The shapes dragged themselves from the pit's edge, their limbs boneless, their mouths opening wider than faces should allow. They reached toward you, black tongues lolling, their whispers rasping like rusted hinges. "Fall. Fall and be finished." The pit inhaled sharply, the pull stronger this time. Your chest lurched, breath ripping from your lungs as though it meant to tear your soul out with it. You staggered, gasping, clutching at your throat. The woman seized your arm, her lantern blazing white to steady the air around you. "Resist it! If you let it take your breath, it will take your voice, and if it takes your voice, you'll never climb again." The figures hissed, surging closer, their bodies dragging across stone and wet slabs. The pit exhaled, the hot wind filling the chamber with the stench of rot. The woman shoved you toward the far arch, her jaw tight. "Move!" The pit inhaled again, harder. And this time, you felt your very heartbeat stutter, as though the tower's hunger had reached inside your chest. The pull was brutal. Your lungs convulsed, dragging air out of you against your will, every exhale ripped from your throat like thread off a spool. The pit's inhale thundered in your ears, louder than the heartbeat above, as if it meant to suck the life out of you whole. You dropped to your knees, clawing at your chest. Your vision blurred, stars bursting behind your eyes. Each gasp you tried to take ended in nothing, stolen before it reached your lungs. The woman's silver lantern flared bright, her voice cutting through the roar. "Hold it! I can't!" You rasped, but no sound left your lips. The pit was already pulling at your voice, unspooling it into silence. The writhing figures dragged themselves closer, their mouths gaping wide, their voices layered and broken. "Give it! Give it! Give it!" The woman knelt beside you, gripping your face in her free hand. Her pale eyes burned into yours, sharp and unyielding. "The breath is yours, not the tower's. Hold it!" Your chest seized. Your vision went black at the edges. The pit inhaled again, stronger, and you felt your heart skip, stutter, then pause. Panic surged like fire. You clamped your blistered hands over your chest, forcing your body to resist, to drag air in despite the pull. It felt like drowning on dry land, every gasp a war. You thought of your brother, of his laugh, of the silence after he was gone. If you let this thing take your breath, it would erase him too. You growled through clenched teeth, forcing the words out though they shredded your throat. "It's mine!" The silver lantern blazed white-hot, flooding the chamber with searing light. The pit shrieked, its iron teeth grinding, its pull faltering for a heartbeat. You dragged in air, raw and ragged, your lungs burning as they filled. The heartbeat above thundered in approval, shaking dust from the ceiling. The writhing figures recoiled, their mouths snapping shut. Their bodies collapsed into black ash, scattered by the silver light. The pit hissed, furious, its rim cracking as the iron teeth clamped shut. The floor shuddered violently, splitting beneath your knees. "Now!" the woman shouted, hauling you up. "To the next arch, before it breathes again!" You stumbled with her, gasping, your lungs aching but alive. Behind you, the pit drew one more massive inhale. The air pulled at your hair, your skin, your bones, everything trying to drag you back. But you crossed the threshold with her just as the chamber collapsed inward, the pit devouring itself into silence. You stumbled through the arch, clutching your ribs, every breath a jagged knife inside your chest. The air beyond was cooler, thinner, stripped of the copper tang of blood. For a moment, you leaned against the stone wall, trembling, certain your lungs would never settle back into rhythm. The woman lowered her lantern slightly, letting the silver flame dim to a steadier glow. She watched you quietly, her pale face unreadable, until your ragged gasp softened into something like breathing. "You held," she said at last. "Not praise, just fact." Your voice scraped raw. "Barely." Her lips twitched, something almost like a grim smile. "That's always the way." The heartbeat above pulsed louder now, echoing closer, each thud rattling the stone beneath your palms. Unlike before, it didn't feel muffled by distance. It felt near enough to crawl beneath your skin. You lifted your head and saw the stair ahead. It was narrower than before, winding sharply upward like a spine curling into the sky. The walls pressed closer, ribbed with iron beams that glistened faintly in the lantern's light. There were no mirrors here, no lanterns, no chains, just the steady climb into suffocating dark. The woman adjusted her grip on the lantern and began to ascend. "This is the narrowing. Once you pass through, there is no turning back." You forced your legs to follow, though every muscle screamed protest. "What's waiting at the top?" Her pace didn't falter, but her voice dropped low, nearly drowned by the heartbeat. "The bell. And what it decides you will be." You swallowed hard. "Keeper or echo?" She glanced back at you, pale eyes gleaming. "Or something else?" The stair twisted sharply, steep enough that you were soon on hands and knees, dragging yourself upward, your blistered palms grinding against cold stone. The heartbeat thundered louder, filling your ears until it was all you heard, all you were. The woman climbed without pause, her silver lantern pulling you forward like a tether. You clung to its glow, refusing to let the darkness above or the weight of the heartbeat swallow you whole. Finally, after what felt like hours, or minutes, you reached a landing. An iron door waited there, massive, etched with runes that writhed when you looked too long. The sound of the bell thrummed directly through it, each toll rattling your teeth, every strike demanding your bones to answer. The woman turned, her lantern blazing silver against the door's runes. "This is it." Beyond this, you faced the bell itself. Your chest tightened. "And you?" Her expression flickered, unreadable. "I can guide you here. But past the door." She lifted the lantern higher. Its flame stretched tall, bending toward the runes like it longed to touch them. "You'll climb alone." The iron door shuddered under the weight of the heartbeat. Every thud made the runes writhe like living things, their shapes twisting into mouths that opened and closed in silent hunger. The silver light of the woman's lantern flared, forcing the marks to recoil, but they did not vanish. You stood before it, your blistered hands trembling at your sides. The toll of the bell was so close now it felt as if your ribs were the clapper, each strike resonating through your bones. The woman lowered her lantern just enough that her pale eyes caught yours. "The door won't open for me. Only for you. It knows who it's called." Your throat tightened. "And once I step through?" Her gaze didn't waver. "You'll meet what tolls. And what tolls will meet you?" The runes brightened, their shapes twisting faster, almost eager. The heartbeat surged in rhythm, urging you forward. You pressed your palm against the iron. It was warm, too warm, as though blood pumped beneath it. The runes writhed under your touch, curling around your hand like veins. The toll of the bell struck again, and the door split down the center with a sound like bone cracking. Heat spilled out, thick and suffocating. The woman stepped back, her lantern blazing silver, though her face stayed solemn. "Whatever you see, whatever it says, remember what you've learned. The flame doesn't need your surrender. Only your will." The door groaned wider. Beyond it stretched a cavernous chamber, so vast you couldn't see the walls. The ceiling arched into darkness, where faint glimmers of gold hung like stars. And at its center, suspended by chains thicker than trees, hung the bell. It was enormous, dwarfing everything around it, its surface blackened with age. Veins of molten light pulsed across its bronze hide, each beat syncing perfectly with the heartbeat that rattled your chest. The clapper inside glowed faintly red, as if forged from living flame. Every toll sent waves of heat rolling through the chamber. You staggered inside, knees trembling, the sound pressing you down like invisible hands. The air reeked of iron, ash, and smoke. The door slammed shut behind you. The woman's light vanished. And for the first time, you were truly alone. The bell tolled again. And this time, it spoke your name. The chamber seemed endless. The air was thick, every breath dragging smoke into your lungs, though no fire burned. The bell hung above you like a moon chained to the earth, its vast bronze body sweating molten light through cracks in its surface. With each thud, the chains groaned, straining as if they could barely hold it. Then it said your name again. Not a whisper, not a call. It told your name, each syllable booming across the cavern in perfect rhythm with your heartbeat. You staggered, hands clamped to your ears, but the sound wasn't only outside. It reverberated inside you, carving your name into your ribs like a brand. You gasped, the pain searing. Stop! The bell boomed once more. This time, the voice shaped itself clearer, the vibration resonating in your skull. You climbed well. Few reached me. Few are still intact. Your knees buckled. Every word pressed weight into your bones, dragging you toward the floor. The chamber darkened around the bell, its molten veins pulsing faster, brighter, as though the massive shape leaned closer. You forced yourself upright, fists clenched, voice breaking. Why me? Why call me here? The bell laughed. It wasn't a sound, it was a quake, a rolling thunder that shook the cavern so violently cracks spidered across the floor. Because you carry enough to burn, enough to toll, enough to keep me fed for ages. Images burst in your mind, your brother's face, your mother's humming, the porch and rain, every memory you refused to surrender. Each flash like sparks torn from you, pulled toward the glowing clapper inside the bell. No! You screamed, clutching your skull. They're mine! Not for long. The chains above strained. Dust and molten sparks rained down. The bell swayed, massive and inevitable, as though it might crash loose from its bindings. Climb into me, it told. Take your place. Burn, and toll the field forever. The heartbeat thundered louder, sinking with its demand. Your own chest ached, as though your heart were trying to match its rhythm. And then you realized, it wasn't only speaking to you. It was pulling you, pulse by pulse, into its cadence. If you matched it completely, you knew you'd never come back. The tolls came faster now, shaking the cavern with a rhythm that clawed at your bones. Your heart stuttered, struggling to resist. It wanted to keep its own beat, but the bell's cadence pressed harder, dragging it into alignment. Each thud rattled your ribs like a cage being bent into shape. You pressed your palms to your chest, feeling your heart hammer unevenly. The pain was unbearable, as though hands inside your body were trying to wrench the organ free. Stop! You shouted, your voice hoarse, but the sound died beneath the bell's next strike. Why resist? The bell told. You've climbed so far, carried so much. Let it fall from you. Give it to me. I will toll it forever, and you will be free. Visions erupted again, sharper this time, woven directly into the sound. You saw your brother, cigarette glowing in the dark, his face lined with the unspoken things you never said. You saw yourself as a child, lost in the fields, the first time you thought you heard whispers in the tall grass. You saw your mother, looking up from the kitchen, her mouth open to say something, but no words came. The visions were cracks in your armor, widened by the vibration. You clutched your skull, screaming, but the bell only swelled brighter. Its molten veins glowed white-hot, dripping sparks into the abyss below. If you surrender, you will never feel the weight again, it promised. No more guilt. No more grief. No more fear. I will toll it for you. Your knees buckled, slamming to the stone. For a moment, the temptation was blinding. To give it all away. To stop carrying the silence and the sorrow. To let the bell swallow it and be done. Your lips parted. Words crawled up your throat unbidden, aching to answer. But then you remembered the woman's voice on the stairs. The flame doesn't need your surrender. Only your will. You clamped your mouth shut, blood rising where you bit your tongue. Your body shook with the effort, your heart rebelling against the bell's pull. Through clenched teeth, you forced the words out. No. You don't get them. They're mine. The cavern shuddered. The bell's glow faltered, just for a breath, and the chains rattled violently as if in protest. The toll that followed was louder than any before, so loud it cracked the stone beneath your knees. But in the echo, you swore you heard something else. A voice. Not the bell. Not the woman. Your brothers. Climb. The single word struck harder than any toll. Climb. It wasn't an echo twisted by the tower, not the mocking imitation you'd heard in lanterns and chains. This was your brother's voice, raw and certain, carrying the same cadence you remembered from nights on the porch. The sound cut through the bell's pull, and for a moment your heart kicked free, pounding to its own beat again. You gasped, clutching your chest, tears stinging your eyes. Was that? You choked, looking wildly around the cavern. The bell swayed, chains groaning, molten sparks cascading from its body. A memory only. Nothing more. You feed me even as you resist. But it was rattled, you could hear it. The words shook with anger, not certainty. You staggered upright, legs quivering beneath you, fists clenched. Then I'll keep feeding you with refusal. The bell thundered, the clapper striking so violently the sound punched through your skull. The chamber warped, shadows rippling along the walls. From those shadows stepped figures, not husks, not echoes, but doubles. Dozens of them, each one wearing your face. They spread in a ring around you, their mouths splitting into cruel grins. Some whispered, some laughed, some simply wept, but every one moved in rhythm with the bell's toll, their bodies swaying like puppets tied to its sound. You can't climb against yourself, the bell told. You are the weight that breaks you, and I will toll that weight forever. The doubles surged forward. You swung your blistered fists wildly, connecting with one face, then another. Their bodies cracked like porcelain, shattering into sparks, but each strike sent pain flaring up your arms. For every double that fell, two more stepped from the shadows. You screamed in fury, forcing your body to move, refusing to fall. I am not yours! The bell laughed, a quake so violent the cavern split, molten light seeping through the cracks in the floor. Your doubles lunged together this time, a tide of your own faces crashing against you. You staggered, nearly overwhelmed, when a silver flash cut across the swarm. The woman's lantern. She stood at the far edge of the chamber, hood fallen back, pale eyes burning. Her voice sliced through the roar. Hold your flame! Not theirs. Yours! The silver blaze tore through the doubles, scattering them into smoke. The bell shrieked, the sound bending the air itself. And you realized, the woman had followed you after all. The silver lantern flared like a star, forcing the swarm of doubles to reel back in shrieking smoke. The heat of the bell clashed with its cold brilliance, the chamber torn between two rival flames. You staggered toward her, relief and fury mixing in your chest. You said I'd climb alone! Her pale eyes never left the bell. No one climbs alone. Not truly. But what comes after, that is yours. The bell roared, its voice booming so loud the chains rattled free of the ceiling. Molten veins split wider across its body, spilling fire like blood. Liar! It thundered. The climb is solitude. The toll is silence. You cannot reach me with another hand beside yours. The chamber convulsed. The ground cracked open, rivers of molten light spilling outward in jagged patterns, cutting paths between you and the woman. She lifted her lantern high, planting herself against the current, her jaw set. Choose! The bell demanded. Keep her, and burn together. Or cast her aside, and toll as you were meant to. Your lungs constricted. The heat blistered your skin, sweat pouring into your eyes. The woman's silver light flickered as the molten cracks widened, threatening to swallow her where she stood. Don't listen! She shouted across the roar. It wants you bound in its rhythm. If you give in, it won't just take me, it'll take you. The bell swung forward violently, the clapper slamming with such force that sparks showered the chamber. From the molten cracks rose hands, charred, skeletal, writhing in the glow. They clawed at the air, reaching for both of you, their voices layered into a broken chant. Burn with us. Burn with us. Burn with us. You stumbled back, the sound splitting your skull. For a moment, You wanted to let it happen, to collapse into the tide, to let the bell toll your grief forever. The temptation pressed like a weight on your chest, heavier than anything you had carried before. The woman's voice cut through, raw and sharp. Your flame is your refusal. Prove it! You clutched your chest, your heartbeat frantic, threatening to match the bell's thunder. You had seconds to decide, reach for her and fight together, or let go and take the bell's bargain of solitude. The air quaked, the bell leaning closer, its molten light searing your skin. And in that moment, your brother's voice whispered again, faint, but steady. Don't leave her. The bell's toll rattled the marrow in your bones, demanding surrender. Its molten veins pulsed like arteries, spilling sparks that hissed across the chamber floor. The skeletal hands clawed higher, reaching from the cracks, their jaws opening and closing in unison. Burn with us. Burn alone. Burn forever. The woman's silver lantern strained, its flame whipping violently as though it could be snuffed at any moment. She braced against the heat, pale eyes locked on yours, her voice cutting across the chaos. Choose! If you reach for me, it will fight harder. If you don't, you'll never leave this chamber. The bell leaned forward in its chains, massive and terrible, its voice shuddering through the cavern. You cannot share the toll. You cannot keep her. The climb is solitude. The flame is sacrifice. The words tore at you, tempting, convincing. You thought of every step you'd taken, every chamber that tried to hollow you. The field, the stair, the chains, each one had whispered the same message, alone, alone, alone. And yet, your brother's voice lingered in your skull like an ember. Don't leave her. You stumbled forward, blistered hand outstretched, reaching through the wall of heat. The skeletal hands clawed at your legs, their touch freezing and burning at once, but you forced yourself to push through. The woman thrust her lantern toward you, the silver flame bending across the molten current like a bridge. Your fingers brushed hers, then locked tight. The bell shrieked. The sound split the chamber, higher and sharper than any toll. The chains above snapped taut, their links sparking as the massive shape writhed in fury. No! It thundered. You cannot toll with two voices. The skeletal hands wailed, collapsing into ash. The molten crack sealed with violent force, the chamber trembling as though it might collapse around you. Still, you clung to her hand, anchoring yourself against the bell's rage. Her eyes met yours, fierce despite the chaos. Now you know the truth, it lies. Always. The climb isn't solitude. It never was. The silver flame surged higher, engulfing you both in its blaze. The bell recoiled, its molten veins flaring so bright they blinded you. And beneath the roar, your brother's voice whispered once more, steady and sure. Climb together. The silver flame leapt from the woman's lantern, a torrent that crashed upward like water meeting fire. It struck the bell's molten surface, hissing and roaring, white light battling against red heat. The chamber convulsed with the impact, the stone walls splitting wider as sparks rained from above. The bell howled. Not a toll this time, not words forced into rhythm, but a raw, wounded scream that shook the chains until their links snapped. One by one, the massive bonds broke free, crashing to the floor with thunderous clangs. The bell swayed, no longer bound, its weight threatening to fall and crush everything beneath it. Its molten veins flared blinding bright, spilling fire like rivers down its cracked body. And as the silver light pierced deeper, the surface began to peel away. Beneath the bronze, something moved. The molten shell cracked, flaking off and burning shards that dissolved before they touched the ground. Inside the bell was not hollow iron but a shape, tall, hunched, bound in a cage of glowing ribs. Its face pressed against the bronze, mouth open in eternal scream, eyes burned white with fire. You staggered back, horror clawing your gut. There's someone inside it. The woman's jaw tightened, her pale eyes flashing. Not someone. Everyone. Every keeper who ever gave too much, swallowed into its toll. The figure inside writhed, its hands beating against the ribs that imprisoned it. Its scream vibrated your chest, a plea and a curse tangled into one. Faces bloomed across its body, hundreds, thousands, stretching across its skin, weeping, laughing, begging for release. The bell's voice fractured, distorted. I am their fire. I am their memory. I am their silence. You will join. The silver flame cut across its words, slicing another layer of molten shell. The imprisoned form screamed louder, the cavern trembling, molten cracks racing up the walls. The woman shouted above the roar. This is what waits if you give it everything, an eternity caged in its toll. But you can break it. Will alone. Hold to your flame, and deny its hunger. The bell reeled, its molten veins sputtering. The imprisoned faces wailed in fury, the sound deafening. And beneath it all, you heard your brother's voice, clearer than before. Don't free it. End it. The cavern shook so violently that stone dust poured from the ceiling like rain. The bell thrashed in its broken chains, molten veins spitting fire in every direction. The imprisoned figure inside pressed harder against its cage of ribs, its burned white eyes fixed on you. It spoke, not in tolls now, but in a chorus of voices. Men, women, children, all layered together. Free us. Tear it open. Let us breathe again. Hundreds of faces pressed outward from its body, stretching its skin like wax over flame. They wept, they screamed, they pleaded, each one clawing at your guilt. You thought you saw your brother among them, his mouth shaping your name. The woman's lantern flared silver, cutting across the vision. Her voice was sharp, urgent. It's not him. They'll wear any face to sway you. Don't listen. The bell shrieked, its molten shells splitting wider. Fire poured out in rivers, burning pathways across the stone floor. You climbed so far to keep your burdens. Free us, and we will carry them instead. The promise slithered into your mind like a hook. All you had to do was surrender, tear open the cage, let the imprisoned multitude loose. The grief, the guilt, the silence that had followed you step by step through the tower, it would all vanish into their chorus. The woman seized your arm, her grip like iron. If you free it, it won't end their suffering. It will spread it. Every voice you hear will become another shadow in the field, another husk in the stair, another face in the lanterns. The tower feeds on freedom as much as surrender. Her silver flame roared against the bell's heat. But even she seemed shaken, her jaw clenched, sweat streaking her pale skin. Your brother's voice rose again, steady through the storm. Don't free it. End it. But the imprisoned figure slammed its hands against the ribs, molten sparks flying. The chorus of voices wailed in unison. Save us! Your heart pounded, torn between the desperate cries and the woman's command. The chamber pulsed with heat and light, every second pulling you closer to a choice that could shatter everything. Destroy the bell, or free what was trapped inside. Either way, you knew the tower would not forgive you. Your chest burned with every heartbeat, the rhythm threatening to collapse into the bell's toll. The imprisoned figure's eyes seared through the molten ribs, white flames flickering inside their sockets. Its many faces pressed closer, mouths gaping, voices blurring into a single demand. Free us. Save us. Tear it open. You staggered forward, hand trembling, the heat blistering your skin. For a moment, the thought was unbearable. If you could release them, even one voice, maybe your brother's, maybe those who climbed before you, maybe it would mean their pain wasn't in vain. The woman's lantern flared, silver fire searing across your path. She blocked you, her pale eyes burning like steel. Listen to me. That's not salvation, it's a trap. If you free them, you'll let the tower spill into everything. It will spread beyond the fields, beyond these walls. There won't be an end. The bell roared, its voice splitting into two, half promise, half curse. She lies. She keeps you small. Climb into me, break me open, and I will toll freedom instead of silence. The molten ribs bent outward, as if your decision already weakened their hold. You screamed, your voice raw, every word scraping against your throat. No! You don't get to use him against me! The imprisoned figure froze, its many faces faltering, eyes flickering with doubt. The silver flames surged brighter, the woman pressing closer, her voice fierce. Say it again. Deny it! You clenched your fists, blood seeping from the cracks in your skin. You're not him. You're not any of them. You're nothing but the tower's hunger, the bell shrieked. Its molten veins burst wide, fire spilling like rivers across the floor. The imprisoned figure thrashed, clawing against the ribs until its skin tore, sparks and shadows gushing from the wounds. The cavern shook so violently the air itself cracked, thunder rolling through the chamber. The bell tolled again, louder than ever, a sound that shattered stone, split flesh, rattled the marrow in your bones. But through the quake, through the scream of molten fire, your own voice rose, ragged and defiant. You don't told me. I told you. The silver lantern flared white-hot, its blaze colliding with the bell's molten fire. The chamber exploded in light. Light consumed the chamber, searing white colliding with molten red until your vision dissolved into blindness. The force of it hurled you backward, your body striking stone with enough impact to knock the air from your lungs. For a moment, you couldn't tell if you were screaming or if the sound came from the bell itself. When your sight returned, the cavern was unrecognizable. The bell no longer hung whole. Its bronze shell had split wide, molten ribs buckling under the silver blaze. The imprisoned figure within writhed, its many faces contorted in anguish as the fire tore through them. But beneath the chaos, you saw something deeper, something the bell had hidden. Inside the cage, beneath the layers of voices and molten flesh, was not one figure but a heart. Enormous, blackened, its surface cracked and seeping fire. It pulsed in perfect rhythm with the tolls, every beat shaking the chamber. The imprisoned faces were not true souls, not your brother, not any keeper. They were masks plastered to the heart's surface, illusions shaped by its hunger. Your stomach twisted. The tower's truth was not memory or grief, it was this. A single monstrous heart, feeding on sorrow, tolling every pain it could harvest. The woman's lantern burned brighter, silver light washing the chamber. She staggered beside you, her face pale but resolute. Now you see it. Not a keeper. Not voices. Just hunger. The heart pulsed harder, cracks splitting wider, molten fire spraying outward. It shrieked, not with words this time, but with raw, furious sound. The masks on its surface melted, stretching and screaming, until nothing remained but the beating black core. I am endless, the heart thundered in vibration alone. You cannot end me. Every grief feeds me. Every silence keeps me. You strike me down here, and I will grow elsewhere. The chains that once held the bell coiled upward, snapping like serpents, wrapping around the heart to shield it from the silver blaze. The chamber groaned, as if the tower itself bent to protect its core. The woman staggered, lifting her lantern higher. Her eyes locked on yours, desperate now. This is the choice. You don't free it. You don't flee it. You burn it. But it will take everything you are. Your breath caught, chest aching. To end the tower's heart meant giving your own flame against it. The truth pressed down like the weight of every toll before this one. To kill the tower's hunger, you might have to kill yourself with it. The silver lantern shook in your hands, its flame bending toward the heart, as though it already knew what had to be done. The cavern roared, the black core pulsing like thunder, every beat demanding, choose. 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 Your knees wavered, the heat blistering your skin, the weight of the tower pressing down until your bones ached. The heart beat inside your ribs as much as in the chamber itself, trying to fold your flame into its rhythm. The woman gripped your arm, her voice ragged but steady. It wants your surrender. Don't give it that. Give it your will. You closed your eyes. For a moment, you were back on the porch in the rain, your brother's cigarette glowing, his laugh curling into the dark. You remembered waiting up for him, remembered the silence that followed, remembered every word you never said. Grief had been your shadow ever since. But grief was yours. Not the tower's. Not the heart's. You opened your eyes, lifted the lantern high, and screamed into the roar. You don't told me. I told you! The silver flame erupted, engulfing the chamber. It shot upward, spearing through the chains, searing into the black heart. The molten core shrieked, faces peeling off its surface in a storm of ash. Its ribs cracked, splitting apart under the blaze. The heart's voice shattered into static. Impossible, no. You pressed forward, every step agony, until you drove the lantern straight into its fissured surface. The silver fire plunged deep, kneading the black flame within. For an instant you thought it would consume you. Your memories burned, your brother, your mother, every chamber you'd crossed, flashing one after another, searing your mind until you could no longer tell if you were holding them or letting them go. But then the fire steadied. Not erased. Not stolen. Carried. The heart exploded. Light tore through the cavern, ripping the tower's walls apart. The bell split down the center, its toll collapsing into silence at last. Chains snapped like brittle bones, raining sparks as the chamber dissolved into a storm of ash and silver fire. You fell, into light, into silence, into something beyond climbing. And when you opened your eyes again, you were lying in the field. The grass bent in the wind, lanterns scattered like stars across the earth. But they were dark now, their flames gone. No whispers. No faces. Just stillness. Beside you lay the silver lantern, cracked but glowing faintly. The woman was gone. The tower was gone. Only your heartbeat remained, steady your own. And for the first time, the field was silent.